Chapter 2794. Translator, H2H2 Mr. The power of laws intertwined and resonated with each other, creating a terrifying scene. However, Du Xiaofu and the others were sitting cross-legged in the middle of this strange scene, and they were completely unharmed. Everything revolved around them, setting off each and every one of them. It looked like a world with these people as the center, constantly evolving and changing. In this strange world, the rules of order were being shaped, and the power of the great Tao was flowing, forming invisible traces that could not be seen with the naked eye, but the power of the primordial spirit could vaguely capture them. Chu Daoju and the others wanted to help Du Xiaofu. Under their guidance, everything was in order, and the rhythm of Du Xiaofu's body was raised to an extremely terrifying level. This was not something an ordinary truth-severing stage cultivator could do. However, under the deliberate creation of more than 200 immortal realm cultivators, in addition to Du Xiaofu's extraordinary talent and outstanding comprehension ability, all of this had happened. As time continued to pass, all of the aura in the field reached an extreme, causing the ancient space to tremble. Only at a certain moment, when all of the fluctuations and some kind of invisible rule in the ancient space entered the same rhythm, and they were in sync, there was a wing sound, accompanied by a bright light shooting out. Then, an extremely terrifying tearing force rose up and began to pull at the qi on everyone's body. It was as if there was an invisible demon king that wanted to swallow them all. This scene caused Chu Daoju, Ling Feng, Long San, and the others to panic. What's going on? Why is this happening? Someone's tone was panicked, and he said in a trembling voice. This change was too terrifying, and it caught them off guard. It was as if there was a pair of invisible hands that grabbed the qi in their bodies and pulled it out forcefully. If they allowed this to happen, they were afraid that all of their power would be sucked out. At that time, these 200 immortal realm cultivators would all suffer unimaginable damage. Quickly stabilize. Chu Daoju hurriedly shouted, and at the same time, indicated for everyone to quickly withdraw their power to avoid being injured. The three of us will try our best to control it, and the rest of you, quickly cut off your qi. Ling Feng furrowed his brows as he cried out. Senior brothers, you can't hold on. Among the 200 people, there was a strong cultivator who shouted. Hearing this, the others agreed. With so many of them together, they could not stop the tearing force. If they withdrew their power, Chu Daoju, Long San, and Ling Feng would not be able to resist it at all. At that time, the consequences. If you don't want to die, do it. Long San said coldly to the people around him. After they finished speaking, they let out a terrifying roar, and the energy in their bodies trembled fiercely, drawing on their strongest strength to break free. The tearing force was too strong. By the time these experts had all broken free from it, they were all drenched in sweat as they collapsed to the ground. They were all exhausted, feeling as if every bit of strength in their bodies had been squeezed out. Fortunately, they didn't suffer any injuries. They only needed some time to adjust their breathing and they would be able to recover to their peak condition. 3 senior brothers. Soon, someone raised his strength and looked at the battlefield. At this time, Chu Daoju, Long San, and Ling Feng's faces were flushed red, as though they were drunk. Large beads of sweat rolled down their foreheads. Their faces were ferocious as they tried their best to resist the tearing force. Of course, other than the 3 of them and Du Xiaofu, there was an old man who was in the same situation. However, he was the same as Du Xiaofu. He had not woken up. Why hasn't Du Xiaofu woken up yet? Ling Feng gritted his teeth and said helplessly. With the strength of the 3 of them, they could retreat directly. However, Du Xiaofu was still cultivating, and there were no signs of him waking up. If they did not pull him out, the 3 of them were afraid that Du Xiaofu and the old man would be in danger. However, it was already difficult for them to maintain their current state. They did not have the strength to cut off the connection between Du Xiaofu and the old man. Hoo. In the ancient desolate space, the terrifying strength was vast and mighty. It was like a terrifying black hole, pulling in all the power of the laws, as if it wanted to swallow everything. No one knew why all of this had happened. They only felt that it was dangerous. Chu Daoju, Ling Feng, and Long San tried their best to hold on, but as time passed, they began to feel more and more exhausted. I can't hold on any longer. In the end, the three of them cried out. The invisible fluctuations around them became even more intense, causing a void storm to form. If they did not retreat, the three of them would fall into a dangerous situation. Du Xiaofu, wake up! Chu Daoju shouted out. However, the purple-robed youth sitting cross-legged on the ground did not make the slightest movement. This made him feel helpless. Hoo-la-la! Suddenly, a loud sound rang out. The three of them, along with the power of the laws around Du Xiaofu, could no longer resist. The strength in their bodies surged out like a flood, rushing towards a single direction. Little bastards, what have you done? At this moment, Elder Kong was startled awake. He opened his mouth and shouted out angrily. He was originally in the midst of recovery, and under the effect of many treasures, he was about to reach his peak state. However, when such an unforeseen event occurred while he was cultivating, and his entire body was pulled away by a huge force. This shocked him greatly. Instantly, he determined the situation before him, but it was too late. Elder Kong only felt bitter in his heart. Could it be that the strength that he had recovered with great difficulty was going to be beaten back to its original state again? It's over. I don't even know how I died. Long San could not help but curse. He was simply aggrieved to the extreme. Until now, they still had not figured out the source of all this. However, in the next instant, under the gazes of everyone, a whirlpool suddenly appeared on the figure that was lying on the ground and was wrapped in light beside Du Xiaofu, and it pulled the strength of Chu Daoju, Long San, Ling Feng, and Elder Kong, along with their bodies, into the whirlpool. So that's how it is. At this moment, Chu Daoju was startled awake. All of this was caused by that person who was in a deep sleep. He was not unfamiliar with this figure that had been lying in the desolate ancient space. From the aura that was faintly emitted, he could determine this person's identity. Venerable Supreme Saint, please don't play with us like this. Ling Feng actually let out a miserable cry as he bitterly shouted at the sleeping figure. However, very quickly, their bodies that were being pulled abruptly stopped, and they stopped near Du Xiaofu. At the same time, the vortex also disappeared, and the tearing force disappeared just like that. Before the four of them could understand what had happened, the formless fluctuations of laws outside their bodies began to tremble violently. The situation on Du Xiaofu's body was the same as well. All of his strength began to tremble. Moreover, the space domain outside his body actually covered the dean of the Martial Heaven Academy, and that vacuum area no longer existed. Buzz, 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 a terrifying buzzing sound resounded in the desolate ancient space. Layer after layer of ripples spread out like water waves. Chu Daoju, Long San, Ling Feng, and Old Man Kong closed their eyes again. Their auras were connected to Du Xiaofu's, and when they came into contact with the fluctuations from the dean of the Martial Heaven Academy, they produced a terrifying resonance. The other 200-plus people who had previously escaped were now staring blankly at Du Xiaofu's group of 5, as well as the dean of the Martial Heaven Academy. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Under the influence of the formless energy, a strange sound rang out in the desolate ancient space, causing many of the experts to feel their scalps go numb. However, when someone listened carefully, they actually felt that the sound had an unimaginable mystical charm, causing one's heart to fluctuate. Sometimes it was calm, and sometimes it was violent. A great opportunity. This is a great opportunity that is hard to come by. Very quickly, an expert shouted. He deeply felt that the current state of Du Xiaofu's group seemed to be resonating with the aura of the person in a deep sleep. Upon closer inspection, the buzzing sound actually contained the power of laws. It was like the sonorous voice of the great Tao, enlightening even the apathetic. What did we miss? At this moment, an expert's face was bitter and resentful. It was only now that they truly realized that the terrifying tearing force from before was actually emitted from the person in a deep sleep. It was the result of the resonance between the person in a deep sleep and the rest of them. As for the 200-plus of them, they had actually forcefully broken free from that state. Thinking of this, everyone wished they could give themselves 2 tight slaps. If we didn't resist just now, we could have also obtained unimaginable benefits. Someone said bitterly and sorrowfully. Seeing that Du Xiaofu, Chu Daoju, Ling Feng, Long San, and Old Man Kong had entered a profound state, these people were envious. Quick, 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 let's not waste any more time. This buzzing sound is also extraordinary. Let's listen carefully. If we can comprehend some of its profundity, we can also obtain great benefits. Immediately after, someone said this. Immediately, everyone realized this and began to cultivate. They listened attentively to the sounds in the void. Soon, the desolate ancient space fell into silence again. Only Du Xiaoba, Du Xiaolin, and Du Xiaohuang kept blinking their big eyes, seeming to be a little ignorant. They had already woken up, but these little guys were only in the seizing divinity realm. Previously, they had not formed a resonance with the auras of Du Xiaofu, Chu Daoju, and the others, so they did not fall into the terrifying tearing force from before. It seems that Uncle Xiaofu's cultivation is going to increase greatly this time. Du Xiaoba pondered for a moment and said, he was the oldest, and his knowledge was much broader than Du Xiaohuang and Du Xiaolin, so he could see some mysteries. Dad, quickly become stronger and teach those evil beasts a lesson. Du Xiaohuang's beautiful eyes swept across Du Xiaofu's body as she spoke. Kill them all and eat their meat. Du Xiaolin's eyes emitted little green stars as he clenched his fists and said, you only know how to eat. Du Xiaoba gently knocked on his head, but he also unconsciously licked his lips, as if he was savoring the taste of those beasts. I wonder when Shuang Yang and the others will recover. Du Xiaohuang turned her head and looked at Ouyang Shuang, the ancient emperor of the human race, and the ancient ancestor Bifang. These three people were affected by the scorpion poison of the primordial manticore tribe, and their primordial spirits were severely injured. However, after Du Xiaofu planted the blood-soul seal on the primordial spirits of many experts of the primordial manticore tribe, he cured them of the poison, but the primordial spirits of these three people still needed time to recover. Let's continue to cultivate, we can't be left too far behind by Uncle Xiaofu. Du Xiaoba pondered for a moment, then said to Du Xiaohuang and Du Xiaolin, before all the creatures of Shenwu world fought the devil religion, these three little guys' cultivation was not too far away from Du Xiaofu's, but after coming to the 33 heavens, this gap was growing larger and larger. If they did not want to be left too far behind, then they could only cultivate with all their might. As they spoke, the three little fellows sat down. Like the surrounding people, they continued to cultivate. Time continued to flow in the ancient barren space. Du Xiaofu, Chu Daoju, Ling Feng, Long San, and Elder Kong's auras intertwined, resonating with the Dean of Tianwu Academy. In addition, the 200 or so immortal realm experts sitting cross-legged in the surroundings were also listening to the humming sound in the ancient barren space. It was as if they were listening to the heavenly tune of the great Tao, and they were extremely intoxicated. As time passed, everyone's auras began to faintly rise, and those who had just broken through also stabilized their cultivation. Du Xiaofu and the other four in particular experienced the greatest changes. They were clearly sitting there, but if one closed their eyes and used the power of their primordial spirits to investigate, they would not be able to discover their figures at all. At this moment, it was as if the five of them had been branded in the ancient barren space, becoming one with it. The one who experienced the greatest change was Du Xiaofu. He was at the true severing stage, and under the resonance of the laws, he continuously sensed the rhythm within it. The laws of space. At this moment, Du Xiaofu had actually already regained consciousness, but he did not know what kind of state he had entered. He only felt some traces evolving in his mind. These were the fluctuations of laws, and naturally he wanted to find out what was going on. Woo woo woo. In Du Xiaofu's mind, the illusory wheel of time began to spin rapidly, releasing its mighty power and stirring up space and time. Traces of the laws of time. Du Xiaofu also knew that the changes in the illusory wheel of time were caused by the laws of time. The law brand in his Naiwan palace shone brightly, and a certain part of the mark once again shone brightly, matching the formless fluctuations. As time slowly passed, his entire person carried a unique charm, extraordinary and extraordinary. In such a scene, when 20 days had passed in the outside world, which was 3 or 4 years in the ancient barren space, Du Xiaofu, who was sitting cross-legged, suddenly opened his eyes with a swish. Then, his body stood up, and his purple robe fluttered without wind. The laws of time? Du Xiaofu muttered. He stretched out his hand and pointed, shooting out a light sword. Then, his other hand quickly swept out, and a strange rhythm spread out, covering the light sword. Then, he saw that the formless order and laws around the light sword were directly rewritten, and its speed suddenly increased explosively. It quickly struck out, piercing through the void, and disappeared. Seeing this scene, Du Xiaofu's mouth unconsciously curved into a smile. He knew that it was not that the speed of the light sword had increased, but that under the influence of the time acceleration, the laws of time in that area had sped up many times, causing the light sword to look like it had increased in speed. My gains are really great. Du Xiaofu was overjoyed. He knew that he had finally made a breakthrough in his comprehension of the laws of time. Tilting his head to look at the principal of the Tianwu Academy lying beside him, Du Xiaofu sighed. Yu Yuqian didn't lie to him. If he were to cultivate beside the principal and form a resonance with him, he would be able to reap unexpected benefits. However, this breakthrough in the laws of time was also due to the illusory time wheel. It was like a catalyst that ignited Du Xiaofu's comprehension of the laws of time and opened a door. Also, I've actually grasped more than half of the laws of space. I'll be able to reach perfection with one more step. After sensing it slightly, Du Xiaofu discovered that his attainments in the laws of space had also taken a huge leap, which made him extremely excited. As the strongest primitive law that he had grasped, Du Xiaofu had already comprehended it to a rather deep level when he was in the divine battle world. After coming to the 33 heavens, he met Elder Kong in the origin space and learned many ways to use the laws of time from him. This allowed him to gain a deeper understanding of the laws of time. This time, after cultivating beside the Dean for several years and experiencing the resonance of the laws of time, his strength had improved by leaps and bounds. A measuring stick seemed to automatically appear in his mind, and he knew that he had already grasped 70 to 80% of the laws of space. In this way, the way to use the laws of space would definitely be more complicated and mysterious, and he would have more methods to use against enemies. Now that I think about it, I can be considered to be at the late stage of truth severing. Du Xiaofu thought to himself and estimated his current strength. If the 4 laws of time were to be separated, Du Xiaofu could be considered to have just stepped into the middle stage of truth severing in the laws of matter. He was at the early stage of truth severing in the laws of time. He was at the late stage of truth severing in the laws of space. Only the laws of soul could not even be considered as a beginner. However, in terms of true strength, after breaking through in the laws of space, he was already at the late stage of truth severing. It's still not enough. I need to improve more. Du Xiaofu suppressed his excitement and secretly reminded himself. Although his current strength was not weak, he was still too weak when facing a true powerhouse like the immortal realm. In the 33 heavens, where the meditative realm powerhouses did not appear, only those who had reached the immortal realm were considered to be at the peak of strength. Du Xiaofu felt a bit of pressure. The enemies he faced were all very terrifying. There were tens of thousands of people outside waiting for them to walk out of the ancient desolate space. As for those people, for some unknown reason, they had the intention to kill him. Regarding this, Du Xiaofu didn't dare to lower his guard in the slightest. As someone who had just arrived in the 33 heavens from a small world, Du Xiaofu really wanted to know why the people of this world valued him so much. Chapter 2795. Du Xiaofu was not so naive as to think that the primordial demonic dragon and the others wanted to kill him just because he had eaten some of the beast race's meat. Behind that, there must be some unknown secret. I must quickly catch up with my comprehension of the time law and matter law. Most importantly, I must make a breakthrough in the soul law as soon as possible. Du Xiaofu stopped thinking about the outside world and began to think about his own problems. He had already reached the late stage of the space law, but he had yet to make a breakthrough in the soul law. The gap was too large. However, he was confident. After all, his master Yu had given him a portion of the Azure Dragon's blood essence. The Azure Dragon clan's racial talent was the soul law. When he refined the rest of the Azure Dragon's blood essence, he would be able to learn more about the soul law. If there's a chance, perhaps I should pay a visit to the primordial Manticore clan. Du Xiaofu thought to himself. The primordial Manticore clan was now under his control. The blood-soul imprint had been planted in the minds of all their experts. They could be considered as his faction. However, Du Xiaofu did not want to expose this for the time being. Those immortal realm experts were nothing in the Qian Su Jinghua heaven. It was better to let them hide in the dark. Perhaps they could play an unexpected role at a crucial time. The primordial Manticore clan was also proficient in the soul law. There must be something similar to the land of inheritance in their clan. Therefore, Du Xiaofu was thinking whether he should find a chance to go to Lion Ancestors Ridge and obtain some comprehension of the soul law there. Du Xiaofu was definitely not the style of doing things if he did not make use of this kind of resource. Rumble. Suddenly, when Du Xiaofu was deep in thought, a soft rumble sounded. Even the entire desolate ancient space began to tremble. What's going on? Du Xiaofu turned pale with fright. He hurriedly looked around, trying to find the source of the trembling. This primordial space was refined by the dean of the Tianwu Academy. He was a powerful existence that transcended the meditative forgetfulness with the time law and the space law. How could something refined by such a terrifying powerhouse shake for no reason? Furthermore, the ancient desolate space was now under Du Xiaofu's control. As long as he wanted to know, even the slightest movement in this place would not be able to escape his senses. Could it be that the ancient desolate space has been discovered by the beasts outside? Du Xiaofu's expression turned serious as he thought of this possibility. If that was the case, then the situation was very serious. With so many immortal realm warriors outside, if they broke through the barrier of the ancient desolate space, then none of them would be able to survive. In addition, if it was as Chu Daoju had guessed earlier and those clans had sent out their meditative forgetfulness experts, that would be even more terrifying. The legendary Sitting Oblivion, he reckoned that with just a casual slap, he would be able to turn all of them into dregs. Brat, I'm afraid he's really in the meditative state. At this moment, Chu Daoju, Long San, Ling Feng and Elder Kong also regained consciousness. The secret connection between them and the dean of the Tianwu Academy had been severed, and the figures lying on the ground once again regained their tranquility. In addition, the other experts sitting cross-legged on the ground also opened their eyes one by one. Hearing Chu Daoju's words, everyone's expression became very heavy. Could it be that the most terrifying result had really happened? The meditative state, in the entire 33 heavens, there's only such a small one. What kind of ability do we have to be able to alarm a meditative state expert? Some people were extremely suspicious, not daring to believe this guess. Everyone knew that among the 9 great realms of the 33 heavens, the carrier realm and the formless realm were the realms of legends. At the very least, in the current world, no one knew if such terrifying realms really existed. In this way, the meditative state experts were the strongest experts in all the worlds. However, they usually wouldn't appear in the world unless there was a threat to their clan or clan. Only then would they appear and fight. Or else, something big happened that shook the entire 33 heavens. Du Xiaofu's group of over 200 people were all in the immortal realm. They posed no threat to the entire Qian Su Jinghua heaven, so why would the meditative state experts be sent out? I'll go out and check the situation first. Chu Daoju frowned and said to the people around him. No matter what, the desolate ancient space should have been exposed. Whether or not a meditative state expert had come, they couldn't just sit here and wait for death. They had to understand the situation in the outside world to make corresponding countermeasures. Senior brother Chu, let's go together. The others will wait in the desolate ancient space. Du Xiaofu walked to Chu Daoju's side and said. Chu Daoju thought for a while, nodded and agreed. Senior brother Chu, be careful. Junior brother Du, be careful. Everyone's mood was extremely heavy. They all warned the two of them. We can hide for a while, but we can't hide forever. Let's go and check it out first, Chu Daoju said. Then he turned around with Du Xiaofu and prepared to leave this place to check the situation. Seeing this, the others didn't say anything. Their hearts were in their throats. They were very afraid. They were afraid that once the two of them left the desolate ancient space, they would be immediately suppressed. At this time, outside the desolate ancient space, many Beast Clan warriors stood in the air. Every one of them emitted a terrifying aura that shook the void. The densely packed figures filled the void. In the midst of the terrifying power, they naturally released an earth-shaking pressure. Countless creatures, even if they were watching from afar, felt their legs tremble uncontrollably. They wanted to crawl under this pressure. The situation here had shocked many of the living beings in this world to the extreme. The three clans have finally surrounded those humans and found the space treasure they were hiding in. Yes, I didn't expect that even the meditative state experts would be sent out. It's too scary. The meditative state. Even the few immortal realm ancestors in our clans have never seen a meditative state expert. Every one of those people is an existence that can suppress a part of the world. They don't appear easily. Once they appear, something big must have happened. It's incredible. Those 200+ humans have actually made the clans pay so much attention to them. I don't know who they are. They actually allowed things to reach this stage. I can imagine that these people definitely have an extraordinary background. Otherwise, how could the three clans make such a big fuss? Even if they die, it's enough for them to be proud of. I'm afraid this matter will spread throughout the 33 heavens very soon. This time, there shouldn't be any more accidents. After all, the meditative state experts have appeared. Will they still allow those humans to continue jumping around? Many creatures couldn't help discussing. While they were deeply shocked by the appearance of the meditative state experts, they also felt that Du Xiaofu's group was too terrifying. Otherwise, the three clans, the Taisher Demon Dragon, the Green Blood Giants and the Divine Netherworld clan, would simply not have disturbed the meditative state experts who rarely appeared in the world. However, when these creatures were discussing, they were also somewhat uncertain. After all, the situation had been full of twists and turns. Time and time again, they thought that Du Xiaofu's group would definitely die, but they were still alive and kicking until now. Although the creatures in the Qiansu Jinghua heaven were very confident in the meditative state experts, no one could say for sure whether or not there would be any unforeseen changes in the future. Do you think we'll have a chance to see a battle between the meditative state experts? Suddenly, a creature stammered and said such a sentence. These words caused the scalps of everyone who heard them to instantly go numb. Their entire bodies began to tremble. It was not impossible. After all, those humans were able to attract so much attention, their background must be great enough. If they also had a meditative state expert behind them, then it might really lead to a battle between the meditative state experts. I don't dare to imagine. That's too terrifying. If something goes wrong, our entire world will be plunged into an endless disaster. Some creatures were trembling all over. Even their speech appeared to be somewhat inarticulate. That was indeed an unimaginable scene. According to legend, when a meditative state expert made a move, he could easily suppress a part of the sky, cause the world to lose its color and overturn the universe. For the 33 heavens, it had already been countless years since anyone had seen a battle between the meditative state experts. That was definitely not a good thing. Instead, it would be a terrifying disaster. When the time came, the entire Qiansu Jinghua heaven would be turned upside down. Countless creatures would die an unnatural death. I hope that won't happen. Some people secretly prayed. Although they yearned for that kind of state very much, as a weakling, no one was willing to see that kind of scene happen. Just watch. I keep having the feeling that this time's matter definitely won't end so easily. There was also someone who spoke, relying on the faint intuition at the bottom of his heart. Outside the desolate ancient space, more than 100,000 immortal experts were in the air. This was a terrifying army. With so many experts gathered together, no matter where they went, a part of the world would treat them seriously. However, at the moment, none of these beastmen moved. They only looked at the center of the encirclement with shining eyes. There, a stooped old man stood. Only a few dazzling strands of hair remained on his head. They were dry and white. On his forehead, 2 dragon horns were pitch black and purple. They were shriveled and lifeless. The old man's face was the same. Deep wrinkles covered his face, engraved with the vicissitudes of time. Coupled with his staggering steps, he gave off the feeling of someone with 1 foot in the grave. There was no aura fluctuation on the old man's body. If he wasn't standing in midair, he would look no different from an ordinary old man who was about to reach the end of his lifespan. However, it was this kind of ordinary-looking, even very frail old man that caused the surrounding people to look at him with deep respect. The primordial demonic dragon clan's demonic dragon ancestor. This is an expert who has lived since the beginning of the world. In the surroundings, the experts of the Green Blood Giant clan, the Divine Netherworld clan, and some other clans looked at the old man and unconsciously sighed in their hearts. The leaders of these clans had all heard of this old man's name before, but very few of them had seen his true appearance. Now that they saw him, a strong sense of reverence rose in their hearts. The 3 realms of the meditative realm are oblivion, and transmigration. This demonic dragon ancestor should be about to reach the oblivion realm. Some experts looked at the old man and guessed. He must have broken through the oblivion realm. Perhaps he has already stepped into the oblivion realm. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for the primordial demonic dragon clan to awaken him and invite him here. Someone in the Green Blood Giant clan thought of this. It was because of the uniqueness of the meditative realm that they lived in seclusion for many years. The Green Blood Giant clan and the Divine Netherworld clan had previously returned to their clans to invite the meditative realm experts of their clans, but they had all failed. Their own ancestors were in a deep slumber and were very difficult to awaken. Their state was similar to that of Dean Tianwu in Du Xiaofu's desolate ancient space. As their descendants, no one dared to forcefully awaken them. After all, they were not facing the crisis of their clan's destruction. If they were careless and caused bad consequences to their own ancestors' cultivation, the loss would be great. It was also because of this that only the demonic dragon ancestor of the primordial demonic dragon clan came here. Ancestor. At this time, an old man in charge of the primordial demonic dragon clan stepped forward and respectfully said to the old man, "I wonder if the ancestor has found the hiding place of those humans." When he asked, he seemed to be a little careful, afraid that he would arouse the dissatisfaction of his ancestor. "I've found them. I'll invite them out now." The demonic dragon ancestor nodded lightly, revealing a hint of desolation. He did not have the demeanor of an expert at all. Under everyone's gaze, he stretched out his hand and pointed. A light radiance sprinkled down and filled the air. Then, strange marks appeared one after another. They were the patterns of the laws, and they were like tiny dragons winding around each other. They intertwined with each other and formed a unique rhythm. It's the law inscriptions of the spatial treasure. We found those humans. Many experts were excited. When those patterns appeared in front of their eyes, they could naturally see the mystery of it. Needless to say, it was the hiding place of the purple-robed youth and the others. It was the spatial treasure. It had to be said that the person who could refine such a treasure really shocked all the experts. If the demonic dragon ancestor, who was in the Oblivion realm, did not make a move, so many immortal experts would not be able to do anything to it. Damned humans, come out and die. Not long after the law marks appeared in the ancient desolate space, a beast race powerhouse suddenly shouted. Then, they saw a giant tail that was like a pillar that reached the heavens, brazenly smashing down from the void, ruthlessly whipping at the law marks. On the giant beast tail, there was an unparalleled power, causing the whole world to shake violently. The void was directly cut open, and an abyssal crack that penetrated the blue sky and the yellow springs appeared. The aura of the outside world surged out, and the 9 heavens and 10 earths were cut open. However, when such a domineering attack landed on the law imprints, it directly penetrated them. Then, the giant tail swung down, whipping open a mountain range that stretched for millions of miles below the void. In a loud roar, the earth cracked open, and endless water surged up, irrigating the cracks. A huge river immediately appeared in its embryonic form. The power of matter can't even move it. Seeing such a scene, the eyes of countless experts trembled fiercely. Just who was the one who refined that spatial magic treasure? How could such a terrifying attack not cause it to budge in the slightest? This was too terrifying. That was definitely not an ordinary treasure. It must have been refined by the hands of a top expert. That kid must have a great background. No wonder. No wonder the two young lords wanted to kill him. There must be something special about him. Many people from the Taisher demon dragon, the green blood giant, and the divine netherworld tribe were shocked. They could see that the spatial treasure was extraordinary. Moreover, the purple-robed youth definitely had a great background. This is a spatial treasure refined by the meditative realm. The law imprints can indeed be seen, but the entire space is placed in the void and won't be affected by external forces at all. The demonic dragon ancestor of the Taisher demon dragon clan said softly. His turbid eyes also emitted a bright light at this time. Others couldn't see it, but he knew that this spatial treasure was very extraordinary. The strength of the person who refined it was definitely above his. What kind of force did our clan provoke? The demonic dragon ancestor couldn't help but think of this. He was a little uncertain. Would his actions this time bring disaster to his clan? The two young people who went to his clan gave him an incomparably huge temptation. However, did the Taisher demon dragon clan really have the fortune to enjoy all of this? Would it be in vain after making endless efforts, or would they just be used as a knife by someone? The old man thought of many questions in an instant. The force behind these humans was definitely terrifyingly powerful. It was even much more powerful than the Taisher demon dragon clan. He didn't know whether his clan had made the wrong choice this time. However, things had already come to this point. There was no turning back. Moreover, as long as they didn't expose the fact that their clan had joined hands with those two young people, the other worlds in the 33 heavens shouldn't pay too much attention to this matter. The Taisher demon dragon clan, the green blood giant clan, the divine netherworld tribe, and the other big and small forces of the Qianshu Jinghua heaven shouldn't be afraid of the force behind these humans. After all, the immemorial oath was still there. It's time to come out. No matter what, you can't hide today. The demonic dragon ancestor said. His voice was a little hoarse. It sounded like he hadn't spoken for many years. As soon as his voice fell, he stretched out a withered claw and grabbed at the law imprints of the desolate ancient space. The ancestor has made his move. Seeing this scene, many experts inexplicably felt a little nervous in their hearts. That old hand was so weak. It was still faintly trembling unconsciously. However, everyone knew that this seemingly ordinary grab of the demonic dragon ancestor contained endless laws and principles of the great Tao and the order of heaven and earth within it. Everyone was waiting for the desolate ancient space to be torn open. The more than 200 humans would be directly exposed in front of them and then be killed. The experts of the three clans raised their spirits one by one, preparing to kill the purple-robed youth Du Xiaofu at the first moment and fulfill the promise with those two young lords. Chapter 2796. When the demonic dragon ancestor made his move, there was no dazzling light or vast aura. However, there were invisibly moving runes and vibrating power of laws, weaving the traces of the great Tao. However, just as he extended his hand, before it could even touch the runes on the ancient desolate space, it suddenly came to a stop. At the same time, the demonic dragon ancestor raised his bald eyebrows and exclaimed, "It came out by itself." Seeing him stop, the rest of the people were also surprised. However, in the next moment, the marks on the desolate ancient space changed, and a gap appeared. From that gap, two figures stepped out. They were Du Xiaofu and Chu Daoju. "Ha! You know you can't hide anymore, so you came out by yourself." Looking at the two figures, an expert laughed coldly. One is at the true severing realm, and the other is at the ninth sky of the immortal realm. Both of you are not weak, but so what? This time, you have nowhere to run. Among the Nether God clan, a person shot out murderous aura. He looked at Du Xiaofu and Chu Daoju as if he was looking at two dead people. They actually invited the meditative realm expert. After Du Xiaofu and Chu Daoju walked out of the desolate ancient space, they saw the battle formation in front of them. Especially Chu Daoju. He looked at the demonic dragon ancestor. Although the other party didn't emit any powerful aura, there was an invisible, terrifying pressure pressing down on his primordial spirit. This was the keenest intuition of the ninth sky of the immortal realm. Strictly speaking, he was only one step away from the meditative realm, although he might not be able to cross this step in this lifetime. Because of this, Chu Daoju could clearly feel the terrifying aura of the old figure. It was definitely a terrifying existence that could overrule the sky and destroy the earth. Senior brother Chu, are you sure you can get out? At the side, Du Xiaofu's eyes were deep as he stared straight at the old man from the primeval devil dragon race, and asked Chu Daoju. His heart was heavy like never before, with one sitting beside him, plus the densely packed undyings eyeing him covetously. Du Xiaofu felt like he was carrying a heavy mountain, almost unable to breathe. It was no longer realistic for them to escape into the ancient desolate space. Now that the meditative forgetting expert had appeared, there was no way they could continue to hide. If he allowed the old man to break through the desolate ancient space, he and the 200 people inside would all die without a burial place. The only way now was to escape. If Chu Daoju was confident, he could try to escape. It was better than waiting for death here. You can't escape. Chu Daoju grit his teeth. He knew just how terrifying the meditative oblivion realm was. That was a terrifying existence that had successfully fused with a primordial law. They had already truly touched upon the great Tao of heaven and earth, and every movement and action of theirs carried with it the highest truths of the world. In front of that old man, all resistance was futile. It was impossible for the two of them to survive. Therefore, Chu Daoju could only sigh inwardly. He was afraid that only death awaited them today. Du Xiaofu, I've said before that you'll be the first to be killed. At this moment, among the primordial demonic dragon clan, an Undying's realm elder stepped out. His magnificent aura burst out like the waves of the sea, sweeping towards Du Xiaofu. This old man was also terrifying. His energy fluctuations caused the surrounding laws to vibrate. In the impact of the vast aura, the surrounding space was instantly rewritten, completely under his control. Kill. Tear this human into pieces. Kill them and avenge the experts of the various clans. Leave their primordial spirits behind and roast them with divine fire. Soon, there was an earth-shattering roar. One by one, the experts were surging with killing intent. They shouted loudly, wanting to suppress Du Xiaofu and Chu Daoju. As he spoke, one by one, the powerhouses flew up and attacked the two of them. Since they had come out on their own, there was no need for the devil dragon ancestor, who was at the Oblivion realm, to attack. Just these Undying's realm experts were enough to crush the two of them millions of times. As for the over 200 people who were still hiding in the desolate ancient space, none of them could escape in the end. If we can't escape, then let's fight. Chu Daoju looked around in despair. His gaze became deep. Then he looked at Du Xiaofu and said, "Kid, let everyone come out. Since we can't leave here alive, then let's have a good fight." A dazzling light surged from his body and covered his entire body, making him look like a god. Under the backdrop of the vast aura, the fiend god Qi surged and shook the heavens and the earth. "Senior brothers, I'm sorry." Du Xiaofu didn't hesitate too much. He opened the desolate ancient space again and released Long San, Ling Feng, and the other over 200 people. Since Chu Daoju didn't have any confidence in fighting them, he was afraid that they could only die. Instead of continuing to hide like a coward and being chopped in half by a knife in the end, it was better to fight to the death and drag a few people down with him. However, Du Xiaofu felt deeply guilty. These experts from the 3,000 Great Thousand Worlds had come to help him. If not, they wouldn't have been in such a desperate situation. Junior brother Du, there is no joy in life, and there is no fear in death. We have lived for countless years, and we have already seen through life and death. Ling Feng suddenly laughed and looked at Du Xiaofu, who lowered his head with guilt and said in a clear voice, "That's right. If we were afraid of death, we wouldn't have reached the realm we have today." Another person said fearlessly, "We have been through countless hardships and battles since we started our cultivation, and we have stood strong until now. Even if we are going to die today, it is glorious enough. However, we can't die in shame. Let's fight them fair and square." Long San's voice was like a great bell, and it resounded through the 9 heavens and 10 lands. Unknowingly, he had raised a big knife in his hand, and he brazenly slashed the void, splitting the entire heaven and earth. When he collided with the aura of the immortal stage Taisher Demon Dragon Clan, a terrifying storm that could destroy the heavens and earth erupted. "Kid, although I have been dragged down by you, I don't blame you. Dying on the battlefield is better than being swallowed by the bloody flame Divine Lotus." Elder Kong also left the ancient desolate space and came to Du Xiaofu's side, patting him lightly on the shoulder. At this moment, Elder Rong had almost recovered to his peak with the help of numerous treasures and time acceleration. His entire person had a strange charm, especially when he walked, and the people around him could feel as if they had entered another layer of space. "If that's the case, then let's kill." Du Xiaofu heard the words of the people around him, and his eyes shone with divine light. He made up his mind. Since he couldn't escape today, he might as well release his last ray of light. In the blink of an eye, Chu Daoju, Ling Feng, Long San, Elder Kong, and the others all moved. More than 200 figures soared into the sky, and a terrifying aura spread out, spreading outwards. Everyone raised their strength to the maximum, and they attacked with all their might, killing the powerhouses of the Beast Clan. An ant trying to shake a tree. Don't overestimate yourself. Many of the Beast Clan members snorted coldly. In their eyes, these 200 people were like ants. Against so many powerhouses on their side, it was no different from an egg striking a rock. With more than 100,000 immortal stage powerhouses, it would be a piece of cake for them to kill more than 200 humans. Moreover, there was a forgotten powerhouse of the Taisher Demon Dragon Clan beside them. How could these humans escape alive today? Don't waste any more time. Join forces and suppress them. Don't let any of them go. The immortal stage powerhouse of the Taisher Demon Dragon Clan shouted. He didn't want to waste any more time to prevent more accidents from happening. Only by suppressing all these humans would he be able to heave a sigh of relief. As he spoke, at least 10,000 immortal stage powerhouses attacked at the same time. Their auras intertwined, forming a giant energy net that covered the entire sky. It covered an area of tens of millions of miles, and it descended from the sky, descending towards Du Xiaofu and the others. Within this giant energy net, there was an energy that swept across and destroyed everything. Wherever it enveloped, the void would turn into chaos, and it would become a desolate land filled with heaven and earth chi. Du Xiaofu, Chu Daoju, Ling Feng, Long San, Elder Kong, and the rest of the 200 people, under the pressure of this giant energy net, their bodies cracked open, and blood spurted out. Everyone's primordial spirits were also under a terrifying pressure, and it was as if they were about to explode. In just a short while, everyone had suffered different degrees of injuries, especially those who were at the low immortal stage. They couldn't withstand such pressure at all, and they were about to fall from the sky. Du Xiaofu let out a muffled roar, and his entire body changed into the shape of a green dragon. The second transformation of the green spirit armor was activated, and he used it to resist the pressure that was impenetrable. If it weren't for this technique, he wouldn't even be qualified to resist. Humans, go to hell. A powerhouse from the Green Blood Giant clan shouted. Following that, the rest of the people displayed an even stronger strength at the same time, and jumped into the giant energy net. An even more terrifying energy burst forth, pressing down from the sky, brazenly suppressing Du Xiaofu and the others. More than 200 people were covered in scarlet blood, and many of them fainted. Some of them even had their bones broken, and their divine souls were about to collapse. Their physical bodies and primordial spirits were severely injured under this terrifying energy. Chu Daoju, Ling Feng, Long San, Elder Kong, and the rest of the high-level immortal stage powerhouses were all twisted and deformed. Du Xiaofu's green dragon body was also broken into 3 parts by the enormous pressure. What a familiar aura of death! Only now did everyone feel that they were close to death. Du Xiaofu, in particular, gave him a sense of familiarity. In his early years in the divine martial world, when facing the powerhouses of legalism, he dug out his heart to save his sister and died once. Later on, in the battle with the demon god, in order to kill him, he didn't hesitate to burn his origin law and fought with his life on the line. He also died once. However, on those 2 occasions, Du Xiaofu had recovered once again. But now, Du Xiaofu felt that there was no such thing as luck this time. Under the pressure of these immortal stage powerhouses, even if he had the immortal Shen body, he could only turn into ashes. No matter if it was his physical body or primordial spirit, they would never be reincarnated. Die! As the Taisher Demon Dragon clan elder shouted, the giant energy net finally descended on the heads of Du Xiaofu and the others. Endless mighty energy surged within, killing the heavens and destroying the earth. Are we going to die like this? At this moment, Du Xiaofu and the others felt the final despair. They sighed. Originally, they wanted to fight with all their might, kill some beasts, and drag them down with them. But now, it seemed that this plan was somewhat laughable. The power of more than 200 people was too insignificant. They didn't even have the power to resist. Kikik. These humans are finally going to die. Many of the beasts in the sky let out sinister laughter. They already knew in their hearts that these humans deserved today's fate for being so presumptuous in the Qian Su Jinghua heaven. As for the powerhouses of the Taisher Demon Dragon clan, the Green Blood Giant clan, and the Divine Netherworld clan, they also let out a long sigh of relief. Their mission was finally about to be completed. However, just when Du Xiaofu and the others were in despair and when the beasts relaxed their minds, a loud shout suddenly spread out. It exploded in the sky like a clap of thunder. No one can kill my disciples and nephews. At the same time this shout fell, the void suddenly trembled violently. A terrifying energy burst out from the void, flew out, and brazenly collided with the giant energy net formed by the combined efforts of over 10,000 beasts. A terrifying light burst out. The killing energy shook the heavens and the earth. It formed the shape of a tyrannical sharp blade and chopped down directly. Under such might, a long and narrow hole was actually cut open in the giant spatial net, and a crack was opened. Powerhouses are coming. Faced with such an unforeseen event, everyone woke up with a start in an instant. Needless to say, there must be powerhouses from the outside world who came to save these humans. Most importantly, that attack just now was really too terrifying. The giant energy net formed by over 10,000 people was actually cut open directly. What kind of strength did that require? His strength is not very strong, but this weapon. Among the crowd, only the eyes of the primordial demon dragon clan's meditative realm demonic dragon ancestor fluctuated violently. He was the strongest person present. He saw through the essence and saw that the person who attacked was not very strong. There were even some people present who were stronger than him. However, the weapon used by the person who came was too terrifying. The demonic dragon ancestor's heart throbbed. What kind of weapon could have such power? Master. Uncle Yu. Du Xiaofu and the others were about to give up resisting, but the voice that came out of nowhere made them all excited. In just a moment, everyone knew the identity of the person who came. It was the imperial ancestor of the Yuqing Divine Kingdom, Yu Yuqian. As expected, after the giant energy net was cut open, Du Xiaofu and the others saw a large group of figures appear in the void and directly come to their side. Among them, Yu Yuqian, Yurin He Mengcheng Huiyuankun, Duan Baichuan, and the others were all there. In addition, there were close to 1,000 immortal experts who went to the Yuqing Divine Kingdom and raised the Juling Holy Land. The reinforcements from the Yuqing Divine Kingdom had finally arrived at the last moment. At this time, Yu Taiyin held a long sword in his hand. There was a bloody light lingering on it, and a faint murderous aura was fluctuating. Junior brother Yu, you're finally here. Chu Daoju, Long San, Ling Feng, and the others all let out a long sigh of relief. This time, they had really taken a trip to hell and were already prepared to die. Fortunately, at the last moment, strong reinforcements had arrived. "Xiaofu, my disciple, how are you?" After Yu Yuqian appeared, he directly rushed to Du Xiaofu's side. At this time, Du Xiaofu had already transformed into his human form. Yu Yuqian looked him up and down, carefully inspecting him. His entire body had been pinched by him. His old eyes were filled with deep worry and deep heartache. After a round of inspection, when he found that Du Xiaofu had been severely injured, some tears appeared in Yu Yuqian's eyes. He hugged Du Xiaofu and said, "My good disciple, you've suffered." "Master." At this moment, Du Xiaofu was endlessly moved. Looking at Yu Yuqian's expression, he was finally willing to call him master. "How dare you injure my disciple Xiaofu? Do you beasts of the Qian Su Jinghua heaven want to be annihilated?" Suddenly Yu Yuqian, who was still feeling heartache, let go of Du Xiaofu, looked at the sky, and coldly asked. His eyes were filled with murderous intent, as if a sharp knife had sliced through the air. However, although his murderous intent was intense, it did not shock many people. Instead, it attracted a burst of laughter. Humans are indeed arrogant enough to boast so shamelessly. You're not dreaming, are you? A mere 1,000 people dare to clamor with hundreds of thousands of beasts. You didn't take the path to heaven, but you came to hell without a door. Since the forces behind those people have come here, then let's die together. Kill these humans. Since they're here, don't let them escape. Countless beasts sneered. They looked at Yu Yuqian as if they were looking at a fool. In their eyes, these humans had come here to die. And they wanted to save the other 200 or so people. Dream on. 800 or 900 people. Including us injured people, that's only a little more than 1,000 people. It's indeed far from enough. Du Xiaofu's heart slowly calmed down. He was severely injured and almost lost his ability to fight. He could only barely stay in the air. Although he was very touched that Yu Yuqian, Yu Taiyin, and the others had arrived at the last moment of danger, he still could not see any hope in the face of enemies 100 times more than him. What was even more frightening was that under such a tight encirclement, his master and the others had only jumped into the abyss and were seeking their own deaths. Not only Du Xiaofu, but Chu Daoju, Ling Feng, Long San, Elder Kong, and the others also slowly calmed down after their initial excitement and saw the situation in front of them clearly. Just as those beasts said, the Yu Qing Divine Kingdom had sent out 1,000 people. It was indeed like they had come to hell without a door. 1,000 people against hundreds of thousands of beasts. Other than seeking their own deaths, what else could it be? Chapter 2797. These humans, I'm afraid their brains are all damaged. All the experts from the beast race laughed. They looked at everyone with ridicule, especially the old man who spoke. He actually had an arrogant look on his face. He was simply too arrogant. The beast race couldn't be blamed for thinking this way. The disparity in strength between the two sides was too great. "Master, since you're here to help, you should have brought more people with you," Du Xiaofu said to Yu Yuqian with a bitter expression on his face. His heart was heavy. Originally, only 200 people were in danger. Now, it seemed like all the forces of the Yu Qing Divine Nation were going to die here. Uncle, you must have notified the Yunyang sect. However, the experts from that side won't be able to make it here in time. Someone in the crowd thought. Only by borrowing the power of the 3,000 sectors could they hope to get out of this situation. However, if those experts wanted to cross over to this place, it would take a long time. "Xiaofu, my disciple, rest at ease. Since I'm here, I'll bring you back in one piece. No one in the Yunyang sect will be left behind." Yu Yuqian didn't take Du Xiaofu and the others' words to heart. Instead, he forced a smile and said to Du Xiaofu. After saying this, he turned his eyes again and looked at the countless beast race experts around him. He snorted coldly and said, "A group of evil creatures, how dare you touch this old man's people? If you don't know how to appreciate favors, so what if I destroy this world?" His words were deep and he still looked arrogant. If Yu Yuqian was from the beast race, He would have been wagging his tail in the air. Everyone who heard this felt a little dazed. They didn't know where this old man got his confidence from. Perhaps only an extremely small number of people would be able to find some clues. The saber in junior brother Yu's hand, it's the blood saber. Chu Daoju, Ling Feng, Long San, and a few others all stared at Yu Taiyan's hand. To be precise, they stared at the saber in his hand. Their eyes trembled violently as if they couldn't believe it. This saber was too familiar. It was just that they hadn't seen it for many years. The power it released was even more obscure. In addition, the meditative expert from the Taisher Demon Dragon clan also stared motionlessly at the saber that was emitting a bloody light. Many people saw this scene, but no one took it to heart. That was because the saber looked very ordinary, nothing. Uncle Yu Taiyan's blood saber. Looks, he's really angry this time. Long San, Ling Feng, and the others blinked. The shock in their hearts was enormous. What that saber represented, the saber represented. Yu Taiyan's with Yu Taiyan Chu Daoju Us. When the others heard this, they thought for a moment and nodded in agreement. They knew Yu Yuqin too well. Even though he wasn't good at teaching his disciples, he was definitely second to none when it came to protecting his disciples. Du Xiaofu was a disciple he had recently accepted and treasured very much. How could he possibly allow him to die in this Qian Su Jinghua heaven? When they thought about it this way, everyone felt that it was understandable that he had brought bloodshed here. Humans, you will pay the price for your arrogance. At the same time, someone from the beast race shouted loudly. I don't care where you came from. Since you're here, you can all go to hell together. Kill 1,000 sempiternal realm experts. Killing them will be fun. Why are you still talking to them? Just kill them. More and more beasts began to yell, and they began to gather their terrifying auras as they charged toward Du Xiaofu and the others. They did not want to wait any longer, especially the Taisher Demon Dragon, the Green Blood Giants, and the Divine Netherworld tribe. They only wanted to kill those humans as soon as possible. At the very least, they had to kill Du Xiaofu first before they could feel at ease. Rumble, boundless energy waves surged, and a terrifying tremor occurred in tens of millions of miles. The void cracked apart piece by piece, turning into chaos. The majestic auras were like mountains and seas. The power of countless laws intertwined and broke through the boundless space. The order of this world was in chaos. The sky exploded, the earth sank, and all living beings trembled. At least 30,000 sempiternal realm beasts attacked together. The aura was too terrifying, as if it could destroy everything. It swept past and crushed toward Du Xiaofu and the others. Many people's faces changed when they saw such a terrifying scene. He Mengcheng Huiyuankun, Duan Baichuan, and the others who came with him also trembled. They were ordered to come here, but they did not know what trump card their divine emperor had. However, when they broke through the giant net that trapped Du Xiaofu and the others, they vaguely knew that the long saber in his hand was extraordinary. Everyone back off. Yu Taiyan shouted and ordered Chu Daoju, He Mengcheng, Du Xiaofu, and the others to back off. Then, his palm glowed brightly and he flew up, holding the long saber in his hand. Roar! In the blink of an eye, a dragon's roar resounded through the sky. Yu Taiyan's palm glowed brightly, and an infinite amount of qi was channeled into the long saber in his hand. Amidst the flickering blood-red light, the entire blade was blood-red with a tinge of gold. Amidst the stillness, there was a murderous and fierce aura. Following the natural and moving blade arc, a circle of pitch-black spatial crack appeared in the void at the edge. Rumble! At this moment, the energy of heaven and earth in this part of the void was drawn invisibly. A formless golden light seeped out of the void. The entire void was filled with golden light, and a murderous aura swept out. Following this, a terrifying power descended between heaven and earth, carrying with it a suppressive force that could destroy everything. So powerful! Du Xiaofu's eyes could not stop trembling. He was shocked by the power of the blood. However, this was only the beginning. What would make his heart tremble even more was yet to come. Then in the void, Yu Taiyan stepped forward. Facing the attacks of so many powerhouses, he was not afraid at all. His entire being was like a god in the sky, domineering and peerless. It was as if one man could hold back 10,000 men. Yudian raised his saber and slashed down. Swoosh, blood gold light burst forth, and a dazzling saber light pierced through the air, striking the energy tide formed by the combined forces of the many beasts. Crackle. It was just a simple collision, but all the laws of heaven and earth that had been rewritten in the surrounding space were instantly obliterated. As for the saber light, it instantly slaughtered its way into the group of beast race powerhouses and instantly annihilated a large number of them. At this moment, at least a few thousand beasts were harvested by the saber light like ripe wheat in the ground, ending their lives. None of the people who were swept by the saber light suffered any injuries. However, their vitality was cut off in an instant, and they became corpses that fell from the sky like dumplings being dropped into a pot. How is this possible? Countless people were dumbfounded. Looking at Yudin high in the sky, they felt their hearts beating uncontrollably. The combined attack of tens of thousands of people could not withstand a simple attack from him? This was too terrifying. Even a powerhouse in the meditative realm would find it difficult to achieve this. He's not strong himself. What's strong is that saber. At this moment, a beast powerhouse finally realized the abnormality of the situation. Yutayan's cultivation level was higher than many people present, so naturally, they could see through him with a single glance. If they wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as taking something out of one's pocket if so many powerhouses swarmed him. However, the seemingly ordinary saber in his hand was too terrifying. An extremely simple strike had taken the lives of a few thousand immortal realm experts. This was simply too terrifying, and it was impossible for others not to feel terrified by this. What level of weapon is that? A powerhouse asked in a trembling voice. His entire body trembled uncontrollably, and his expression was extremely exaggerated. He looked like he was about to lose his mind. Could it be a supreme-grade law true weapon? Someone asked suspiciously, thinking of such a possibility. Impossible. A law true weapon can't be this powerful. Another person spoke up, his tone changing as he spoke. Everyone knew that in the 33 heavens, the weapons were divided into 4 major levels: divine weapons, law true weapons, chaos Tao weapons, and primeval treasures. However, the highest level of primeval treasures only existed in legends and had never appeared in the world. If one wanted to forcefully trace it back, it was likely that only powerhouses succeeded in refining it before the beginning of the chaos. Legend had it that the item Pangu used to create the world was a primeval treasures. However, with the passage of time, the primeval treasures had been buried in the dust of history with generation after generation of powerhouses. It was impossible to see such a powerful primeval treasures. As for law true weapons, as the name implied, they carried the power of laws. If ordinary weapons were engraved with talisman arrays to increase their power, then law true weapons were engraved with the true meaning of laws, the laws and logos of heaven and earth, and the true meaning of the great Tao. Every law true weapon was rare and could not be refined unless one was at the immortal stage. Once it appeared, it was an existence that could suppress a part of the world. When the power of laws it contained leaked out, it had the power to destroy the world. Even immortal stage powerhouses would treat it as a treasure. For the many races in the Qian Su Jinghua heaven, especially the many powerhouses who came here, although law true weapons were very rare to them, it was not like they had never seen one before. Among the primordial demon dragons, the green blood giants, the divine netherworld clan and some other major races, even if they were to combine all of them, they could still find 1 or 2 supreme-grade law true weapons. Therefore, they knew very well that the long blade in Yutayan's hand was definitely not a supreme-grade law true weapon, because a supreme-grade law true weapon could not display such terrifying power. A Chaos Tao weapon. It must be a Chaos Tao weapon. Someone said with fear and trepidation. His eyes were wide open, and he was deeply shocked. Legend had it that after Pangu created the world, when yin and yang were obscure, the chaos chi in the world was extremely rich, and the living beings of that time were also endlessly powerful. They used the chaos chi left behind by the creation of the chaos to refine many powerful divine weapons. They could cut the sun, moon, and stars above, cut the greater thousand worlds below. There was nothing in the blue dome of heaven that could not be broken, nothing that could not be destroyed. However, this was still not the most terrifying part of a Chaos Dao weapon. A Chaos Dao weapon, in the hands of an expert, could directly cut through the laws of the world, shatter the invisible order, and cause the world energy to become chaotic. When used against a living being, such a terrifying method was even more shocking. Even an immortal stage powerhouse who had mastered a certain complete primitive law could create a domain that could be cut through by a Chaos Dao weapon in an instant. It could not pose any threat to the opponent. Therefore, for all the current practitioners, Chaos Dao weapons were the pinnacle of existence. Perhaps, in the entire Qian Su Jinghua heaven, there might not even be a Chaos Dao weapon. Even if there was such a terrifying treasure, it must be in the hands of an extremely powerful meditative realm expert. Chaos Dao weapon. That's a Chaos Dao weapon. How could these humans have a Chaos Dao weapon? The beastmen panicked. Their faces all turned pale. No one dared to imagine that these humans had brought a Chaos Dao weapon. It was a treasure weapon that was very difficult to find in the entire 33 heavens. With a Chaos Dao weapon, as long as one's cultivation was high enough, he could directly cut through the barrier between worlds, allowing these humans to leave easily. In other words, if one of these humans could exert a small part of the long knife's power, he could cut through the barrier between worlds and return to his own world directly. This was countless times faster than using a wormhole. The grudges between us and the Qian Su Jinghua heaven can be settled later. Now, I'm going to take them away. Is there anyone stopping me? After Yutayan's attack, his eyes were like two blazing suns, sweeping over the many experts on the periphery. He came here only to save people. He did not want to make a bigger commotion. There must still be a few meditative forgetfulness experts in this world. If he alarmed them, he was afraid that he would attract even more trouble. Most importantly, with his cultivation, not to mention using the strongest power of blood slaughter, even if he only slashed out a few more times, he was afraid that his body's power would be completely exhausted. It would not be a wise move to cause more chaos at this time. Under the coercion of Yutayan's gaze, the densely packed beastmen retreated in panic. Who would dare to come forward to court death? Everyone saw the power of that slash just now. No one wanted to go up and court death for no reason. A Chaos Dao weapon? It doesn't look like it. All the beastmen were retreating. Only one person was still standing in place, not moving. This was an old man. The white hair on the top of his head and the teeth in his mouth were about to fall out. His stooped body stood there without emitting the slightest ripple. He looked like a candle in the wind. His pair of muddy old eyes stared fixedly at the long knife in Yutayan's hand, muttering incessantly. When a Chaos Dao weapon is born, its power is much stronger than this. Could it be a half-step Chaos Dao weapon? The demonic dragon patriarch muttered, as if thinking about something. His cultivation was the deepest among those present. He was in the meditative forgetfulness realm. His divine sense was also the sharpest and could see the essence of many things that others could not see through. The demonic dragon patriarch frowned. That long knife gave him a very strange feeling. It did not seem like a Chaos Dao weapon. Although he did not possess such a terrifying weapon, he had seen it before and knew how terrifying a Chaos Dao weapon was. Even if it was just placed there quietly, it could still suppress this part of the universe. Many beastmen would not be able to fight it head-on. Under the power of a Chaos Dao weapon, they would be forced to crawl away. Therefore, the demonic dragon patriarch guessed that it might be a half-step Chaos Dao weapon. It was only a step away from a true Chaos Dao weapon, but its power was much weaker. However, this idea was quickly overturned by him. If it was only a half-step Chaos Dao weapon in the hands of an immortal realm expert, it would not be able to repel tens of thousands of beastmen in one blow and kill thousands more. Not to mention a half-step Chaos Dao weapon, even an ordinary Chaos Dao weapon would not be able to do this. After all, the cultivation of the person who controlled it was still too shallow. "Old Turtle, are you going to stop us from leaving?" Seeing the demonic dragon patriarch standing still, Yu Yuqian could not sit still any longer. He immediately stepped forward and pointed at the other party's nose as he scolded. His aura soared into the sky as he shouted in front of a meditative forgetfulness expert. He did not feel the slightest bit of fear, just like a fool. But now that things had developed to this point, no one thought that there was something wrong with his head. With the help of a Chaos Dao weapon, these humans did indeed have the qualifications to leave safely. Facing Yu Yuqian's curses, the demonic dragon patriarch's expression did not change. He only nodded his head lightly. "I can let you go, but only if you leave behind two things." The demonic dragon patriarch extended two fingers and slowly said, "One is the blade in your hand. The second is him." As he spoke, he turned his gaze and cast it on Du Xiaofu's body with an unquestionable expression. "Looks like the patriarch is about to make a move." With the demonic dragon patriarch making a move, these humans shouldn't be able to continue jumping around. "Ancestor, you must kill them. At the very least, you have to leave behind that purple-robed youth's life and that Chaos Dao blade. This time, it will definitely be foolproof. Killing Du Xiaofu will be considered a completion of the mission, and we will also be able to obtain a Chaos Dao artifact. This time, it seems like the primordial demon dragon clan is going to be rich." When the many beasts heard the words of the demonic dragon patriarch, they all became excited. Things had developed to such an extent that it was simply full of twists and turns. Fortunately, there was still the existence of this meditative realm. They really wanted to see how that human would be able to contend against the demonic dragon patriarch. One had to know that even though a Chaos Dao artifact in the hands of an immortal ranker was extraordinary, it was still unlikely to be able to contend against a true meditative realm expert. Since the demonic dragon patriarch dared to say such words, there was no doubt that he definitely had the confidence to face those humans. This result caused Yu Yuqian to sneer. "Old Turtle, you really dare to open your mouth. My disciple must be taken away, but this old man can give you this blade, but do you dare to take it?" Chapter 2798. Yu Yuqian cast a sidelong glance at the dragon demon patriarch with a sneer on his face. This time, it was his turn to look at the demonic dragon ancestor as if he was looking at a retard, containing an indescribable sense of ridicule. "Haha." Hearing what Yu Yuqian said, Yutayan Chudeoju, Long San, Ling Feng and the others all laughed out loud at the same time. They laughed so hard that they swayed back and forth. This hairless old turtle's eyes are really good. He actually took a fancy to that guy's bloodthirst. I have to say, he still has some eyesight. Perhaps he can see that this blade is extraordinary. Just like what martial uncle you said, what's the harm in giving this bloodthirst to him? I've seen bold people, but I've never seen someone bold to this extent. Since he wants it, then give it to him. Junior brother Yu, give him the saber. I want to see how he will accept this great gift. Chu Daoju and the others were all laughing silly. Everyone looked at the dragon demon patriarch, and the word awesome unconsciously appeared in their hearts. They deeply admired the dragon demon patriarch, and simply prostrated themselves on the ground. At this time, in their eyes, the dragon demon patriarch was not a terrifying expert of the meditative realm, but a completely arrogant person. To Chu Daoju and the others, the words he said were the biggest joke in the world. What is the background of this bloodthirst? At the side, Du Xiaofu also raised his eyebrows. Just by looking at the crazed expressions of the crowd, he could tell that the blade in Yutayan's hand must have an extremely terrifying owner. To be able to treat an expert like the dragon demon patriarch as if he was nothing. In other words, bloodthirst was definitely not something he could touch. Du Xiaofu was very curious. He also wanted to know who the owner of that long saber was, to actually be able to make a meditative realm expert become the laughingstock of everyone. What an arrogant human, you dare to be so impudent in front of the patriarch. Kill them all, don't let a single one of them go. You dare to look down on a meditative realm expert, you deserve to die. Many beast race experts couldn't help but cry out. Who was the demonic dragon ancestor? That was a meditative realm expert, a peak existence in the 33 heavens. In the eyes of all living creatures, he was a godlike existence. It could be said that if such a powerhouse was truly angered, then everyone in the 33 heavens would have to take him seriously. Yet, these humans actually dared to look down on such a person. How could they not be angry? Looks like your background is really big, but I wonder which faction you are from? At this time, the dragon demon ancestor also became serious and solemn. His face, which was as old as the bark of a tree, was filled with caution. Within the 33 heavens, there were many powerful races. The human race was one of them. However, the human race and the beast race had very different racial concepts. They were divided into many factions and each had their own way of governing. However, it was undeniable that there were many human forces that were incomparably powerful. There were also many that were more powerful than their primordial demonic dragon clan. Therefore, at this time, the dragon demon ancestor didn't immediately attack because of the contempt of these humans. Instead, he suppressed the anger in his heart and wanted to inquire about their origins. Clearly, a person who could take out a primal chaos Dao tool and look down on him like this must have an even more terrifying powerhouse behind him. That powerhouse was even far above him. Perhaps, that existence had reached the third stage of meditative realm, looking through reincarnation. If that was really the case, then it would be terrifying. If it was in the past, their primordial demonic dragon clan really couldn't afford to offend them. You talk too much nonsense. Yu Qian sneered and said sarcastically, "This old man only brought these people to Qian Su Jinghua heaven. We're leaving now, and we won't leave anyone behind. If you really want this blade, I can give it to you now." He didn't want to say more. He just wanted to take Du Xiaofu and the others away. Is that so? The dragon demon ancestor's eyes shrank. His turbid eyes suddenly lit up. He kept thinking in his heart, knowing that the origins of these humans were really extraordinary. If that's the case, then let me see what kind of ability you have. The dragon demon ancestor thought for a long time and then said so. In the bottom of his eyes, a strong sense of greed flashed. In the end, all rationality was covered up. A primal chaos Dao tool, such a treasure, no one would be unmoved. Even if there really was a powerhouse behind these humans, he wouldn't be too afraid. Only because the primordial demonic dragon clan, the green blood giant clan, and the divine netherworld clan had reached an agreement with some people. With that terrifying background, he wasn't afraid of the threat of these humans. Humph. Then let's see which one of you can stop us from leaving today. Yutin snorted coldly and suddenly stabbed the long blade into the void. Rumble! The void exploded. Rings of spatial ripples filled the surroundings and spread in all directions. In these ripples, there was a profound law of heaven and earth and the order of the great Tao, affecting the entire world. Under such power, everyone retreated far away, not daring to stay in the surroundings. Destroy! The dragon demon ancestor stood motionless and softly spat out such a word. At the same time, his hands were rapidly moving in the void. Mystical and mysterious techniques flashed through the air as the laws of the world wove together in his hands. They turned into a terrifying and invisible wave that spread outwards and collided with the ripples emitted by the saber, bloodlust. Buzz, a muffled sound shook the world. This part of the world shook. The firmament collapsed, the earth turned upside down, the universe rotated, and the void collapsed. Countless creatures in the Qian Su Jinghua heaven panicked. They prostrated themselves on the ground and trembled incessantly. Many of the weaker cultivators who were closer to the battlefield had their bodies directly explode under such power, turning into clouds of blood mist and dying an unnatural death. This simple collision was like the end of the world. Many places were scarlet red, blood rained, and the world shook. The world was in a mess. Too terrifying. Is this the strength of the meditative realm? That primal chaos Dao tool is also very terrifying. It can actually have such power. The foundation of these humans is so deep. What kind of existence have we provoked? I hope the dragon demon ancestor can kill that human and seize the primal chaos Dao tool. More than 100,000 immortal experts in the surroundings spoke with trembling voices, their eyes full of shock. Under the collision just now, because they were very close, they all suffered different degrees of shock. At this time, they felt the blood in their bodies boiling, their primordial spirits trembling, and their heads spinning. At this time, they really took Du Xiaofu and the others seriously and listed them as great enemies. They only hoped that the dragon demon ancestor could suppress Yu Tian. In this way, they would have the hope of continuing to crush these humans. Qi. In the void, the huge storm of laws caused by the long-distance attack of Yu Taiyan and the dragon demon ancestor did not affect them at all. They were still standing facing each other. Yu Taiyan's momentum was like a rainbow. His robe fluttered, like a god in the sky. As for the dragon demon ancestor, his whole body was rippling with invisible secret power. His eyes were clear and his stooped body straightened. He no longer looked as ordinary as before. What a powerful meditative realm! In the void behind Yu Taiyan, Du Xiaofu's throat could not help but move up and down. He kept swallowing his saliva and felt his whole body heat up. The power of the meditative realm made his blood boil, and he yearned for it greatly. In addition, the long saber in Yu Taiyan's hand made Du Xiaofu envious. It was definitely a rare treasure in this world. With it in hand, an immortal expert could fight head-on with a meditative realm powerhouse. Just as Du Xiaofu was in shock, Yu Yuqian suddenly said something in dissatisfaction, causing Du Xiaofu's eyeballs to almost fall to the ground. If it wasn't for a part of the blood sword's power being sealed, we wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. With one slash, we could have chopped that old turtle into 18 pieces. Yu Yuqian muttered and said gloomily. But in Du Xiaofu's ears, this sentence was like a clap of thunder ringing in his ears. That blood sword was so terrifying, but a part of its power was sealed? Du Xiaofu could not imagine how powerful it would be if it exploded with all its power. Could it be that this master of his was blowing his own trumpet? Was he not afraid that the wind would cut his tongue? Du Xiaofu rolled his eyes. His intuition told him that Yu Yuqian was definitely bragging. However, Chu Daoju, Ling Feng, Long San, and the others were nodding like chickens pecking at rice. What was the meaning of this? Could it be that this old man's bragging was true? No wonder this old kid has so many treasures that are hard to find in the world. It turns out that he has a terrifying great figure behind him. Beside everyone, Elder Kong also looked at Yu Yuqian in extreme shock. Only now did he understand that this old man must have a terrifying existence behind him. Moreover, the relationship between the two was extremely deep. Otherwise, how could he have summoned such a terrifying treasure? In addition, this old man usually ate treasures like snacks. It must be related to that terrifying powerhouse. Young man, don't think that just because you have a treasure in hand, you can fight against a meditative realm expert. With your strength, it's not enough to use this chaos treasure too much. I'm afraid that if you use it a few more times, you won't be able to withstand it. The demonic dragon patriarch looked at Yu Taiyan opposite him and said indifferently. He walked in the void, step by step, toward Yu Taiyan. At the same time, one could see a dragon-like chain mark winding around him, containing the power of heaven and earth and the rules of the firmament. This was a powerhouse who had truly touched the great Tao of heaven and earth. It was incomparably terrifying. Just the power that was naturally released was engraved with the traces of the laws. Whether I can fight or not is not up to you. Yu Taiyan snorted and did not say anything more. He slowly raised the blood-gold saber in his hand and pointed it at the demonic dragon patriarch. The blade was clear and bright, blood-red with a hint of gold. It faintly emitted a dragon's roar that made one's heart tremble. In fact, Yu Taiyan's heart was slightly solemn. Just as the demonic dragon patriarch had said, this bloody saber was too powerful, far beyond the scope of his control. If it weren't for a part of its power being sealed and some other methods, with his immortal realm cultivation base, he wouldn't even have the qualifications to touch it. Even so, he could only use less than 10% of the sealed bloody saber's power. Very well. Yu Taiyan's unwillingness to back down caused the demonic dragon patriarch's words to sink. He said softly, "Then let me see how much power you can use with this treasure in hand." As soon as he finished speaking, he stretched out all 10 fingers on both hands and plucked them repeatedly in the void, as if he was plucking invisible zither strings. As he moved again and again, Yu Taiyan opposite him, as well as the many beasts in the distant sky, Du Xiaofu, Chu Daoju, and the others, all felt a mysterious force rise up around them, constantly vibrating. In an instant, everyone felt as if they had lost control of their bodies. They actually moved along with the vibrating force, completely out of their control. This situation was the same for Chu Daoju, Long San, Ling Feng, and the other high-level immortal realm experts. The power of law is being directly mobilized. That old turtle is too scary. Everyone knew that the demonic dragon patriarch, as a meditative realm expert, had already integrated a complete primordial law. Everything in the world was constructed from the laws, and living beings were no exception. Under the demonic dragon patriarch's control, the power of law in their bodies produced a huge fluctuation. Under such circumstances, the other party only needed a thought to trigger the power of law, and everyone would be annihilated without a trace. The feeling of not being able to control their own bodies caused fear to rise in everyone's hearts. Fortunately, this feeling only lasted for a moment before it disappeared. This was because Yutin, with bloody saber in his hand, had directly slashed down from the sky, severing all the law connections in the periphery. Soon after, he and the demonic dragon ancestor clashed once again. This is a true powerhouse. Du Xiaofu's gaze fluctuated violently as he watched the demonic dragon patriarch gently strike out with his palm. As if it was moving a part of the world, it carried an incomparably terrifying force and brazenly descended, directly slapping towards Yudin. "Old tortoise, let me see how hard your tortoise shell is." Yudin roared and slashed down with his saber. A ray of saber light spread out, dazzling and peerless. Under the illumination of this saber light, the entire world darkened, as if this was the only thing left in the world. Rumble, the saber light and the palm collided, causing a huge explosion that shook the world. On the battlefield, traces of law flickered and collided with each other. This time, both of them deliberately controlled the release of their power to avoid causing harm to the people around them. However, in the area between Yu Taiyan and the demonic dragon patriarch, a strange scene appeared. There, mountains rotated, mountains and rivers appeared, the sun and moon rose together, stars fell, and the common people charged. Everything that could be seen in the world appeared between the two of them, entangling and intertwining with each other, causing violent collisions. The void was smashed into pieces and turned into chaos, and then the chaos was destroyed and turned into nothingness. A dark hole appeared there, swallowing everything in all directions. In the howling wind, all the mysterious power of law was swept away. This scene was not too frightening in the eyes of ordinary people, but in the eyes of many immortal realms, it was indescribably shocking. This was not a simple collision of energy, but even surpassed the ordinary power of law and evolved into traces of the great Tao. Both the demonic dragon patriarch and Xue Lu were terrifying. Can junior brother Yu still hold on? Chu Daoju, Long San, Ling Feng, and the others were trembling. At the same time, they were also worried for Yu Taiyan. They were very clear about Xue Lu's origin, and to control it was definitely not something an ordinary person could do. That guy must have done something to it so that Yu Taiyan could use it to fight the enemy. However, to use it like this, the consumption was incomparably huge. No one knew how many times Yu Taiyan could use it. If he could not win, it would be very troublesome in the future. Young man, your strength is still too weak. Do as I say. As long as you leave Du Xiaofu behind, I can let you all go. The demonic dragon patriarch's seemingly light palm hit the long saber in Yu Taiyan's hand directly. Instantly, Dao He was sent flying by the attack. He quickly retreated and smashed through space. Being shaken by the power of the meditative realm, he spat out a large mouthful of blood, corroding the void and creating small black holes. His face flushed red in an instant, and his blood was boiling. After this move, Yudian was already injured. On the contrary, the long saber in his hand, Xue Lu, did not tremble at all. The second stage of meditative realm. Yu Taiyan retreated thousands of miles, piercing through the boundless void before he could stop himself. He looked at the demonic dragon patriarch solemnly. This old tortoise had broken through the stage of oblivion and stepped into the realm of oblivion. It was indeed terrifying. Since you're unwilling to hand over this saber and Du Xiaofu, then you can all die together. The demonic dragon patriarch took a step forward, but with one step, he appeared in front of Yu Taiyan. Then, he raised his palm again and slammed it down without any fanciful moves. Facing such a blow, Yu Taiyan could not help but smile bitterly. Shuelu, Shuelu. Today, in my hands, I've greatly degraded your reputation. He reached out and stroked the saber, ignoring the demonic dragon patriarch who was approaching him. Instead, he sighed inexplicably. Yu Taiyan's eyes were filled with helplessness. He suddenly threw the long saber in his hand into the void and muttered, "Next, you'll have to rely on yourself." After the long saber Shuelu was thrown out, it hung in the air. Suddenly, the saber's body shone brightly, more than 10,000 times brighter than before. Waves of desolate aura emanated from the long saber, rolling like a tide. There was an ancient power fluctuating. The hazy blood-golden light sprinkled down, and the aura of Shuelu continued to rise. Shuelu has unsealed itself. That old tortoise is finished this time. In the distance, Chu Daoju, Ling Feng, and Long San saw this scene and could not help but exclaim in shock. Chapter 2799. In the distant sky, the hundreds of thousands of beast race immortals were all looking at the long blade floating in the sky, their eyes filled with shock. On the other side, Du Xiaofu's expression was also very interesting. Today, he felt an unprecedented shock. On the other hand, Yu Yuqian, Chu Daoju, Long San, Ling Feng, and the others, besides some excitement in their eyes, were more like it was natural. This long blade has actually been sealed before. Opposite Yu Tian, the dragon demon ancestor's eyes were also fiercely twitching. He found this hard to believe. The extraordinary aspects of this long saber had already shocked him. It was much more powerful than an ordinary Chaos Taoist weapon. However, from the looks of it, when it was in Yu Tian's hands, it was still in a sealed state. At this moment, under the rapid removal of the seal, the terrifying power of law intertwined endlessly and rapidly sublimated. Faintly, a terrifying pressure spread out, but it did not spread out in the void. Instead, it formed a tyrannical pressure that directly pressed down on the dragon demon ancestor. Under this terrifying aura, the dragon demon ancestor directly spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face instantly turned deathly pale. He clutched his chest and couldn't help but retreat in panic. His body bent once again, even more than before. What was released from the long blade was not just a simple power of law, but also the power of the great Tao, directly injuring him. What a terrifying power! Is this really a Chaos Tao tool? The dragon demon ancestor's heart could not help but tremble. His entire body was trembling incessantly. He thought of a possibility. Could it be that this long blade was not a Chaos Tao tool, but... He shook his head forcefully, not daring to imagine any further. However, once such a thought appeared, the dragon demon ancestor himself could not restrain himself. He felt fear in his heart for no reason. He himself was an expert who had touched the true great Tao. A Chaos Tao tool in the hands of a meditative realm expert might be able to severely injure him, but at this moment, no one was controlling the long blade. It was just that when it unsealed itself, it naturally emitted a power that actually caused him to suffer a Tao injury. This. Too terrifying. Seeing the demonic dragon ancestor continuously retreat, the many beast clans in the distant sky were all surprised. What's wrong with the patriarch? He seems to be afraid of something. That long saber is undergoing a transformation. Just some faint fluctuations are enough to make me feel uneasy. I'm afraid that this thing really has a frightening origin. Could it be that the ancestor recognized its origin? The pressure from the bloodshed was all directed at the dragon demon ancestor, so no one else felt that it was terrifying and no one was injured. The pressure of the great Tao contained within was only suppressing the demonic dragon ancestor. No one else was able to pry into it. No one below the meditative realm had the qualifications to peek at the grand Tao of heaven and earth. Old turtle, if you want, I'll keep this saber. Now that we're leaving, you can try to stop us. Yu Taiyan said in a deep voice as he looked at the demonic dragon ancestor. He looked at the other party with a clear gaze, without the slightest fear. In fact, Yu Taiyan still had the ability to continue activating the sealed bloodshed, but he didn't want to continue wasting time here. After knowing that the demonic dragon ancestor had reached the realm of forgetting himself, if they continued to fight for a long time, he would definitely not be a match for him. Instead of fighting fearlessly, he might as well directly throw out his final trump card. Buzz buzz buzz. As if it understood Yu Taiyan's words, the long saber in the void began to spin spontaneously. Waves of vast buzzing sounds spread out in the surrounding air. Immediately, the saber's body emitted a burst of light, piercing a pitch-black hole in the void. In this hole, there was a different kind of aura surging, completely different from the Qiansu Jinghua heaven. That's the hole to another world. Among the beasts, an expert said in shock. The aura surging out of the hole allowed everyone to see that it could directly lead to another world. As long as one stepped into it, they would reach it in an instant. It was completely incomparable to a wormhole. Let's go! Seeing that the demonic dragon ancestor didn't say anything, Yu Yuqian waved his hand and let out a light snort. Leading Du Xiaofu, Chu Daoju, Long San, Ling Feng and the others, he directly rushed out of the void and into that black hole. At the same time everyone entered the black hole, Yu Taiyan coldly glanced at the many beasts in the Qiansu Jinghua heaven, then also went into the black hole. Ancestor! Seeing that those humans had successfully retreated, the experts of the primordial demonic dragon clan, the green blood giant clan and the divine netherworld clan were somewhat anxious. They hoped that the demonic dragon ancestor could intervene to stop them. No matter what, that Du Xiaofu was someone they must kill. Otherwise, if their first transaction with those lords failed, their clans would definitely fall into an even greater passive position. This was not the result they wanted. No need to say more. The demonic dragon ancestor didn't look at the crowd, only waving his hand. He was also unwilling in his heart, but he saw the situation more clearly than anyone else. This time, he really couldn't stop those humans from leaving. It wasn't that he didn't want to stop them, but that he already didn't have the strength to do so. Outsiders couldn't see it, but he knew his own situation. Under the pressure of that long blade's great Tao, he had already suffered an unimaginable injury. That was the injury caused by the great Tao's power, which instantly destroyed a lot of the power in his body. It could be said that if there wasn't a great opportunity in the future, the demonic dragon ancestor's cultivation could forget about making any progress. Even as time passed, his strength would gradually decline. A great Tao injury was absolutely not ordinary. Alas! The demonic dragon ancestor suddenly let out a long sigh, saying, "Everyone retreat. Let's just pretend that today's matter never happened." After saying that, he took another look at the long blade suspended in midair, then no longer lingered here, slowly turned around and left. Only now did he truly regret in his heart, regretting that he shouldn't have gotten involved in this matter. Behind those humans, there was definitely an extremely terrifying existence. He was afraid that this existence had reached the peak of the third stage of meditative oblivion, looking through reincarnation. Only a treasure refined by such a powerhouse would have such terrifying power. Are we just going to let it go like this? Many beast race experts were unwilling, but the demonic dragon ancestor didn't say anything. So what could these immortal realm experts do? Only the experts of the primordial demon dragon, green blood giant, and netherworld god race clenched their fists, their hearts filled with hatred. However, this hatred could only turn into helpless sighs in the end. Chi. Under the gazes of more than 100,000 beast race experts, the huge black hole in the distance slowly disappeared, finally disappearing and returning to its original appearance. As for the long blade, after letting out a soft hum, the blade quickly faded and disappeared, as if it had never appeared. Many experts looked at the calm space and stood motionless for a long time. It wasn't until the sky gradually darkened and the light disappeared that someone began to move. "Let's go." An expert's expression was lonely as he turned around and left, his body carrying a sense of desolation. Immortal realm experts aren't considered that powerful in the 33 heavens. There were also experts who sighed and tore through space to leave. Even if one has reached the meditative oblivion realm, there are still differences in strength. Someone sighed and shook his head. This experience gave rise to a sense of helplessness in everyone's hearts. Normally, immortal realm experts were the ultimate existences in the 33 heavens. They could almost do whatever they wanted. However, once the meditative oblivion realm appeared, everyone was overshadowed and reduced to ants. Those humans who hid in space treasures were instantly found. However, the treasure of a true expert was able to make the meditative oblivion realm, which had survived since the ancient times, retreat. This was even more shocking. Such an expert was the true ruler of the 33 heavens. Let's go. There are some things that we will have to face sooner or later. The primordial demon dragon race's immortal realm expert sighed softly and led his people away. No matter how powerful the forces behind those humans were, since they had reached an agreement with someone, they would have to face it sooner or later. The 33 heavens would not be peaceful for long. Don't spread this matter outside. The powerful being from the Green Blood Giant clan said to the other beasts before he left. Not long after, everyone in this area left in batches and disappeared from this space. When everything returned to normal, a slender woman walked out from a corner. This woman was extremely beautiful and her entire body was filled with faint divine light. She looked otherworldly. She was Cheng Xingnan, known as the Goddess of Light, in the Qiansu Jinghua heaven. When she saw that everyone had disappeared, her expression suddenly relaxed. "Could it be that I still can't let you go?" Cheng Xingnan's beautiful eyes looked at the place where Du Xiaofu and the others left and muttered. In fact, she had been here for a long time. She just didn't have the chance to show herself. When she heard that Du Xiaofu and the others were being hunted down by countless beasts, she only felt a rumble in her head. Her heart, which had already calmed down, was stirred up once again. Without any hesitation, she hurried here. And when Du Xiaofu and Chu Daoju walked out of the ancient desolate space and were suppressed by many experts, she was just about to make a move when Yu Taiyin and the others just happened to arrive. So from beginning to end, she did not show herself. Only when Du Xiaofu and the others left did she walk out. However, after all this was over, Cheng Xingnan could not help but feel even more shocked. She did not know how she felt about Du Xiaofu now, but she was sure that she did not dare to imagine him in danger, or even dying. Perhaps, it was the guilt from back then that was deeply ingrained in her heart today. Cheng Xingnan stood in place for a while, then let out a long sigh. She turned around, tore open space, and disappeared. Supreme Changrong Heaven. Yuqing Divine Nation. Du Xiaofu and the others gathered in the main hall of the Divine Palace. Yu Yuqian, Yu Taiyin, Chu Daoju, Long San, Ling Feng, and the others were all present. "Boy, you still want to go to Qiansu Jinghua Heaven?" Yu Yuqian was stroking his beard. Suddenly, his eyes widened as he asked Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu nodded affirmatively and said, "There are still some opportunities there. I don't want to miss it." He thought of the primordial Chimera clan and the Yamata Naroki clan in Qiansu Jinghua Heaven. The racial talents of these two clans were respectively the law of soul and the law of matter. Now that he was in the truth-severing stage, he needed to comprehend more law powers. Only then could he break through to the immortal stage sooner. Although those two clans were not very strong, far inferior to the Taisher Demon Dragon, the Green Blood Giants, and the Divine Netherworld clan, they were definitely not weak. The legacies they left behind would not be too weak. Since that's the case, you can go. But still, be careful. Yu Taiyin nodded and said before Yu Yuqian could say anything. "I know. I have a way to hide my identity and not let those beasts find out." Du Xiaofu nodded again and said to Yu Taiyin. He knew very well that if he went to Qiansu Jinghua Heaven with his real identity again, once he was discovered by those beasts, he would definitely be torn to shreds. It was precisely because of this that Yu Taiyin had warned him repeatedly. You can go, but remember to come back within 100 years. When the Fiend God battlefield opens, you must not miss such a grand event. Yu Yuqian thought for a while and said to Du Xiaofu. He knew that he could not stop Du Xiaofu, nor did he want to. If his disciple wanted to reach a higher stage, he would have to go through countless hardships and gain many opportunities at the same time. However, if he missed such a grand event as the Fiend God battlefield, it would definitely be a huge loss. Fiend God battlefield within 100 years. Du Xiaofu murmured and understood. Then, without delay, he cupped his fists and bowed to everyone present, saying, Xiaofu will go first. Many thanks for your help this time, senior brothers. Don't mention it, junior brother Xiaofu. This is what we should do as your senior brothers. Yes, in fact, we didn't help much. In the end, it was Uncle Yu who went to save us. Everyone responded politely, not daring to claim credit. That was indeed the case. They did not contribute too much in their trip to Qiansu Jinghua Heaven, nor did they experience any bloody battles. In the end, when they were besieged, it was Yu Yuqian and Yu Taiyin, father and son, who led everyone to the rescue. Only then did they resolve the situation and save everyone. Go quickly, kid. The sooner you go, the sooner you can come back. Yu Taiyin said to Du Xiaofu with a smile. Du Xiaofu nodded and said nothing more. He turned and walked out of the hall. Kid, remember to send me a message if you need anything. Yu Yuqian hurriedly stood up from his chair and shouted at Du Xiaofu's back. Got it. Du Xiaofu waved his hand and left without looking back. In his heart, he was extremely touched. Only recently did he truly regard this master whom he acknowledged as his real master from the bottom of his heart. After all, it was Yu Yuqian who led people to save him when he was besieged by a world's experts. No matter how strong he was or how good he was at teaching disciples, as long as he was truly good to him, Du Xiaofu would treat him like family. Who is the expert behind Master? At the same time, Du Xiaofu was also very curious. He really wanted to know who the owner of that long saber, bloody slaughter, was. He had asked before, but Yu Yuqian, Yu Taiyin, Chu Daoju, Long San and Ling Feng, who knew about it, only smiled and told him that they would know when the time was right. They were all so mysterious. Du Xiaofu could only helplessly ask no more. But in his heart, he was incomparably yearning for that kind of realm. He did not even show his true body. He only let Yu Tian hold that sealed bloody slaughter and face Swo Wang head-on. And after bloody slaughter unlocked some seals on its own, the primordial demonic dragon clan's demonic dragon ancestor was directly intimidated and did not dare to stop them from leaving. That kind of realm, I will definitely reach it in the future. Du Xiaofu's heart was filled with a strong feeling of awe for that mysterious expert. At the same time, he was also encouraging himself. The reason why he chose to return to Qiansu Jinghua Heaven was so that he could make a greater breakthrough. Otherwise, if he focused on the space law and the material law, he would definitely be able to enter the immortal realm earlier. But he did not want to do that. In the countless years of the 33 heavens, there were very few people who could integrate 2 complete primitive laws, let alone master all 4. But Du Xiaofu was not willing to be like others and rely on 1 or at most 2 primitive laws to break through to the immortal realm. This was not what he wanted. What others could not do, he believed that he could do. No matter what the result was, he had to try. Otherwise, how could he be worthy of his trip to the 33 heavens? If he did not step onto the path to the peak, he might as well hide in Shenwu world and be the king of his own mountain. After all, in that small world, he was the ruler, he was the heavenly Tao. Anyone who went there could easily use the laws of heaven and earth to suppress them. It could be said that in Shenwu world, there weren't many people who could pose a threat to him even if all of them were added together. But still, this was not what Du Xiaofu wanted. Only by becoming stronger can I protect my family, my loved ones, and my friends. Du Xiaofu muttered in his heart, using this to motivate himself. All these years, all the hard work he put into his cultivation was to become stronger and stronger, so that he could protect his family, his loved ones, his friends, and the countless citizens of the desolate country, and the entire Shenwu world. Now, Du Xiaoba, Du Xiaolin, Du Xiaohuang, and O Yangshuang, who came to the 33 heavens with him, had been reunited. But Du Xiaoyao and little Xingxing were still missing. Du Xiaofu did not know where they were or what situation they were facing. Yuqing God Country also did not receive any news. Because of this, he did not dare to relax. If one day news of those two came and he needed to go ask for help, if he was strong enough, then all of this would be empty talk. He couldn't always ask you to borrow that bloodthirst to help him every time, could he? Also, there was a large group of people in Shenwu world who were like little lambs waiting to be fed. Every day, they were probably waiting for him to go back and bring them to the 33 heavens. All of this had to be built on his strong foundation to be able to realize it. Gone Su Jinghua Heaven, I am back. After a little preparation, Du Xiaofu once again stepped on the path, entered the wormhole, and once again stepped into Gone Su Jinghua Heaven. Chapter 2800. This time, Du Xiaofu was traveling alone. He didn't bring anyone with him. Even Elder Kong, Ouyang Shuang, the ancient emperor of the human clan, ancient ancestor Bifeng, Du Xiaoba, Du Xiaolin, and Du Xiaohuang, who were in the desolate ancient space, stayed in the Yuqing divine kingdom. Elder Kong had almost recovered to his peak state. Ouyang Shuang and the others' injuries were almost healed. He was no longer worried about them. After coming out of the wormhole, Du Xiaofu changed his appearance and aura with the disguised divine art. He rushed directly toward the Chimera Lion clan. Along the way, he inquired about the current situation in the Qian Su Jinghua Heaven. Unexpectedly, the creatures in this world did not have too big of a disturbance. Instead, they were all very happy. A group of humans wanted to act presumptuously in our Qian Su Jinghua Heaven, but they were still destroyed in the end. Arrogant humans, they deserve such an ending. Is our world a place where they can act presumptuously? Do they really think that our experts here are just decorations? But those humans are really strong. They actually alarmed more than 100,000 immortal realm experts in this world. It's really terrifying. Usually, it's hard to see even one of those experts. But this time, there are more than 100,000 of them. Just thinking about that scene makes me feel that it's magnificent. That represents nearly half of the Qian Su Jinghua Heaven strength. It's enough to wipe out a region. No matter how strong those humans are, they'll be crushed. Have you heard? This time, it seems that not only are there many immortal realm experts, but there's also a meditative forgetfulness expert. Meditative forgetfulness? How's that possible? I heard that too, but it's definitely fake. Isn't it? How could more than 200 immortal realm humans alarm a meditative forgetfulness expert? That's an existence that won't appear in tens of thousands of years. I'm afraid there's nothing in this world that can make them appear. Such words were spread among many weak experts of the Beast Clan. Many people knew that Du Xiaofu and more than 200 other humans had wreaked havoc in the Qian Su Jinghua Heaven. Naturally, the movements of countless undying beings could not escape the eyes and ears of many people. Furthermore, news of the Taisher demonic dragon clan's meditative realm had also spread. However, almost no one in this realm was willing to believe it. After all, no matter how strong those humans are, they are only at the immortal level. Moreover, there are only about 200 of them. But the Qian Su Jinghua Heaven has alarmed nearly half of the immortal level experts. Under such circumstances, it would be an unimaginable scene if he still could not crush them and instead needed Zhuo Wang's help. So in the eyes of these beasts, we are already dead. Du Xiaofu had changed his appearance and concealed his human aura. He was moving among the return to void and God-sizing beasts. Listening to these people talking about their deeds in this world with great interest, he sighed with emotion. It seemed that the Taisher demonic dragon clan, the green blood giant clan and the god of Netherworld clan had ordered all the undying beings to keep their mouths shut and not let the news leak out. On one hand, it must be to preserve their reputation. After all, with more than 100,000 undying beings and one Zhuo Wang, they could not even capture and kill more than 200 human undying beings. If this spread out, they would definitely become a huge laughingstock. On the other hand, those clans probably did not want to cause too much trouble. The existence of that bloodlust had indeed intimidated them. This is good too. At least when I move in the Qian Su Jinghua heaven, I won't attract too much attention. The corners of Du Xiaofu's mouth curled into a smile as he nodded to himself. Since the outside world had spread that they had been killed by those undying beings of the Beast Clan, the other creatures in this realm would not be too vigilant. In this way, even if he showed up as a human, he would not have to worry about being besieged. At least, very few people below the immortal level had seen him. Du Xiaofu was not worried about being recognized. It's time to go to the primitive Manticore clan. Du Xiaofu did not stay in the outside world for too long. After receiving some news, he directly rushed to the primitive Manticore clan. When he arrived at the Lion Ancestors Ridge, someone sensed his arrival and came to welcome him. "Master, what are your orders for coming to the clan?" The primitive Manticore clan did not make a big fuss about Du Xiaofu's arrival. However, all the undying beings of the Lion Ancestors clan showed up. Faced with such an inquiry, Du Xiaofu did not hide his intentions. He clearly stated that he wanted to enter the clan's land of inheritance. The primitive Manticore clan naturally did not dare to disobey such a request. Lion Ancestors Ridge personally led him to the deepest part of the Lion Ancestors Ridge. This is the land of inheritance of the primitive Manticore clan, the desolate soul space. Lion Ancestor pointed to the front and said to Du Xiaofu. In front of the two of them was a place protected by a talisman array. Faintly, strange waves of energy were emitted from it, making one's soul tremble. The desolate soul space? Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. This was the place he wanted to come to. If he could obtain some of the inheritance of the primitive Manticore clan here and achieve a breakthrough in the law of the soul, then it would be a huge gain for him. He was not greedy. He only wanted to reach the early stage of the true severing stage in the law of the soul. As for the rest, he would slowly comprehend it himself in the future. "Master, the desolate soul space is very dangerous. Among the primitive Manticore clan, only those with extraordinary talent have the ability to cultivate here. Of course, I'm not doubting Master's talent. It's just that Master doesn't seem to be proficient in the law of the soul. There will probably be some risks." Lion Ancestor's head tilted as he spoke to Du Xiaofu. To the powerful beings of the primitive Manticore clan, they were born with innate talent in the law of the soul. Even so, only an extremely small number of them were qualified to enter the desolate soul space and obtain the ancient inheritance. "I know." Du Xiaofu nodded, not minding this at all. Although his attainments in the law of the soul were not too deep, the power of his primordial spirit was very strong. Otherwise, he would not have had the ability to plant the blood-soul seal in the primordial spirits of so many powerful beings of the primitive Manticore clan and control the entire clan. Not long ago, he had even refined the Azure Dragon blood essence. One must know that the Azure Dragon clan's law of the soul was many times stronger than the primitive Manticore clan's. This way, even if he could not obtain too many benefits in the desolate soul space, he would definitely have the ability to protect himself from harm. The second transformation of the Azure Spirit Armor was not to be trifled with. Without any hesitation, Du Xiaofu instructed Lion Ancestor to open the array in front of him and stepped into it. As soon as he entered, a bright light enveloped him. It was as gentle as a spring breeze and a drizzle. What a comfortable feeling! Du Xiaofu unconsciously closed his eyes and revealed a look of enjoyment. However, in the next moment, his entire body shook and he suddenly woke up. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead. What a terrifying soul energy! Du Xiaofu murmured and felt an inexplicable throbbing. In that gentle aura, there was actually an all-pervasive soul energy. In the moment when he let his guard down, it directly invaded his primordial spirit and erupted with a terrifying power, wanting to destroy his soul. In just one exchange, Du Xiaofu was defeated. He did not dare to be careless and gently sat down cross-legged. The surroundings were filled with endless light, transforming into strange lines that floated in the void like goose feathers. It looked grotesque and variegated. Phew! Du Xiaofu let out a long breath and sat down with his eyes closed. He began to regulate his breathing. In an instant, his entire person fell into a mysterious state. His entire body did not erupt with an overly powerful aura. The strange lines around him kept drilling into his body. With the power of law, they twisted and turned in his Niwen palace. These power of law had a terrifying corrosive power. It wanted to invade Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit. However, under his deliberate control, it did not cause any harm to his primordial spirit. Soul law, begin to comprehend. Du Xiaofu was immersed in an indescribable state. Wrapped in the endless soul law, he deeply felt many traces of the law. Using these law marks, some of the more subtle truths were peeled off and then comprehended little by little. It was in this state that time slowly passed. The Qian Su Jinghua heaven was very peaceful. After Du Xiaofu's party left, this world gradually restored to its former state. Very few experts from the outside world set foot here. Even if there were, at most only a small number of the younger generation came here to gain experience. As for the top experts, no one came here. In the desolate soul space, Du Xiaofu sat there for 3 years. During these 3 years, he was always in a state of meditation. There were no other fluctuations on his body. He was just constantly comprehending the soul law, hoping that he could resonate with it and comprehend it. Although Du Xiaofu's grasp was the weakest, this desolate soul space was truly extraordinary. As the strongest inheritance of the desolate manticore race, it was only very weak compared to the primordial demon dragon, the green blood giants, the netherworld divine race and other top races. In fact, the overall strength of this race was already extremely powerful among all the races in the 33 heavens. Huff huff huff. Finally, in the 4th year, some fluctuations appeared on Du Xiaofu's body. Waves of mysterious and profound aura came out, explaining the power of life. And on his body, there was an endless amount of life force rising, madly surging out. Swish, swish. The grass of immortality and dark cave grass appeared, appearing in the surrounding void. They swayed and grew, several feet tall, releasing endless life force. Pieces of lustrous green light spun, wrapping Du Xiaofu's entire body, drowning his figure. At the same time, a corresponding change occurred outside the desolate soul space. The leader of the desolate manticore race, Lion 1, had been waiting outside, waiting for Du Xiaofu to come out. When a large amount of life force seeped out, Lion 1's eyes suddenly lit up. Master has made a breakthrough in the soul law. Lion 1's eyes jumped, his heart filled with joy. These life fluctuations reached directly into a person's soul, guiding the life force fluctuations within their body. This was the soul law, also known as the life law. Although Lion 1 could sense that Du Xiaofu's comprehension of the soul law wasn't too strong, he also knew that Du Xiaofu's comprehension of the soul law was the weakest. But everything was the hardest to get started in. With his master's terrifying talent, it was only a matter of time before he became proficient in the soul law. Hum hum hum, waves of power vibrations spread out from Lion Ancestor Mountain, and within the area with a radius of a few miles, many trees glowed with a sparkling light. A faint green light flickered, and all the branches and leaves became even greener. I wonder if Master can obtain the inheritance of my race. If he succeeds, he should be able to reach the early stage of the truth-severing stage in the soul law. Lion 1 thought to himself. He had a lot of confidence in the desolate manticore race's inheritance. Although it couldn't compare to those top races, it wasn't weak either. Many, many years ago, he had received the inheritance here, so he knew how great the benefits were. Although breaking through to the early stage of the truth-severing stage in the soul law didn't sound very impressive, one had to know that there were countless beings in the 33 heavens who had been trapped in the seizing God realm for countless years, unable to even touch the threshold of the truth-severing stage. Du Xiaofu, on the other hand, had grasped 3 types of primal laws. If he made another breakthrough in the soul law, then he would have all 4 types of primal laws. If this spread out, it would definitely be a big deal. In the 33 heavens, it wasn't that no one could do this, but those who dared to cultivate multiple types of primal laws in the truth-severing stage were definitely in the minority. In the end, Those who could break through to the immortal stage with 2 or more types of primal laws were even rarer. I hope Master can succeed. After all, this desolate soul space is incomparably dangerous. Lion 1 muttered. While he was happy, he was also quite worried. Their desolate manticore race entering to receive the inheritance was extremely dangerous. This desolate soul space was left behind by their ancestors. Outsiders who entered would definitely be repelled by some force. Lion 1 was worried that Du Xiaofu, as a human, might encounter some great difficulties in receiving the inheritance. Master, you must succeed. Lion 1 secretly encouraged Du Xiaofu in his heart. Then, he no longer paid attention to the surrounding movements. He closed his eyes and guarded this place to protect Du Xiaofu. He wouldn't allow anyone to disturb him. The depths of Lion Ancestors Ridge returned to tranquility. Outside of the Qiansu Jinghua heaven, the distant Shenwu world was quiet and peaceful. About 5 to 6 years ago, a great change occurred in this world. Heaven and earth rotated and the universe was overturned, alarming all living things. At first, everyone was in a state of panic. But later, when everything calmed down, everyone who lived in this world was pleasantly surprised. They discovered that the entire world had expanded by more than 10 times. The original structure of the 3 continents Kyushu world had been directly overturned. In addition, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth had become much richer than before. This was a great benefit to everyone. More importantly, the suppression between heaven and earth was becoming weaker and weaker. Many people who were at the bottleneck of breaking through took a step forward in a short period of time and stepped into a higher realm. Among them, Du Tingxian, Du Xiaojing, Zhen Qingchun, Jialo Juayu, Du Yunlong Yi Piaoling, Qiangu Yu and several other half-step heavenly saints quickly entered the heavenly saint stage. Those who reached the half-step heavenly saint stage were even more terrifying. The barren country's elder Lei, Du Xiaoqing, Little Tiger Du, Dugfenshan, Yelu Han and others numbered no less than 50. Other than that, the School of Agriculture, School of Taoism, School of Moism, School of Yin-Yang, School of Confucianism, Dragons, Phoenixes, Tianwu Academy, Demon Realm, Golden-Winged Great Rock Clan, Divine Temple, Beast Alliance and many other factions also had a large number of half-step heavenly saints. Those mortals who were originally not talented enough and could not step into the path of cultivation also broke through one after another. In just a few months, the concept of mortals no longer existed in this world. Some powerful factions even had babies who were born with Xiantian martial veins. Such a change made everyone in this world indescribably happy. The expansion of the territory meant that more cultivation resources could be produced. The various factions did not have to fight to the death for some treasures like in the past. In the end, the various factions calculated together and all felt that this change must be deeply related to Du Xiaofu. But all of this did not end there. 2 years later, when Du Xiaofu was facing the encirclement of various factions in the Qiansu Jinghua heaven, he hid in the desolate ancient space and broke through to the late stage of true severing stage. The same change happened in the Shenwu world again. This time, it was even more terrifying. The entire world continued to expand. On the basis of the previous 10 times, it expanded again by at least 30 times. In this way, the entire world was at least 300 times bigger than it was before. What followed was the birth of even more spiritual energy. In the expanded area, under the nourishment of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, many spiritual herbs quickly grew. The suppression between heaven and earth continued to decrease. Those who were stuck at a certain level did not need to cultivate at all. They just needed to breathe lightly and directly make a breakthrough. For a moment, all the living beings in the Shenwu world felt incomparably blessed. There were more and more powerful people, but the entire world became more and more peaceful. There were no big fights happening at all. Even the weak younger generation was the same. What a joke! In this kind of environment, everyone was busy cultivating. Who would have the time to go out and fight? Unless their brains were flooded with water or they were kicked by a donkey. But all of this did not end there. 4 years after the second change in the Shenwu world, which was when Du Xiaofu was comprehending the law of soul in the deepest part of Lion Ancestors Ridge. Shenwu World once again welcomed a huge change. But this time, the change did not affect the size of the world. Instead, it descended upon every living being. On this day, everyone felt their primordial spirits tremble violently. They felt their life force begin to increase. Although their cultivation did not receive the most direct benefits, their primordial spirits became a lot more stable. Waves of strong life force fluctuated between heaven and earth. The earth, mountains, rivers, and forests all carried a layer of spiritual charm. This situation naturally did not escape the senses of many powerful people. When they discovered this, they were all extremely shocked. Chapter 2801. All of this must have something to do with Xiaofu. I just don't know what realm he has reached in the 33 heavens. Within the Huang country's palace, Du Tingxian, Zhen Qingchun, Du Xiaojing, and Du Yunlong were gathered together to discuss the changes in this world. After experiencing this twice, they were no longer surprised by these changes. Xiaofu has left this world for almost 8 years, but there hasn't been any news from him. Zhen Qingchun looked up at the sky and said softly. It had been almost 7 years since Du Xiaofu left this world. During this time, Shenwu World had experienced 2 major changes. This was the 3rd time. They could guess that all of this had something to do with Du Xiaofu, who controlled the laws of this world. The benefits he brought to all living beings were also great. As their cultivation increased, many living beings felt inexplicably happy. This kind of benefit was hard to come by. So, those old guys were still clamoring about going to the 33 heavens. Now, none of them want to leave. They're all in seclusion. Du Tingxian chuckled and said, after Du Xiaofu left, the powerhouses of the 3 continents, Kyushu, all had unspeakable grievances. Many of them had reached the Saint Realm. In this world, it was increasingly difficult for them to break through to a higher level. So, everyone wanted to go to the 33 heavens. They wanted to enter the vast world and train themselves. However, after several upheavals in the world, everyone felt endless benefits. Because of this, their yearning for the outside world had decreased a lot. The changes in this world are good. However, I'm afraid that there will be more challenges. Among them, Du Yunlong was silent for a while and then said, when the others heard this, they all nodded, indicating that they agreed with this view. Shenwu World had expanded by more than 50 times, the overall strength of all living beings was increasing rapidly, and the suppression of heaven and earth was also weakening. They believed that as time continued to pass, there would definitely be more changes. No one could determine just how far this world would grow in the end. But at the same time, the changes here would definitely attract the attention of the experts outside. Originally, it was only a small world. Amongst the countless small worlds, it was completely unremarkable. It was impossible for the many influences of the 33 heavens to covet it. In fact, they didn't even have the interest to look at it. However, as this world gradually expanded, more and more mystical things were revealed. Who knew when an expert would descend? This was an absolute challenge to all living beings in Shenwu World. However, they weren't worried about this. Challenges also represented opportunities, and they were looking forward to it. While they were talking, Du Tingxian, Du Xiaojing, Du Yunlong, and the other members of the Du family were suddenly shocked. They felt surprised for no reason. Layers of mysterious light were faintly emitted from the bodies of these people. It was like a shroud of mist that enveloped their bodies. I feel like I'm about to break through again. Du Xiaojing's lips slightly opened as he spoke in surprise. I have the same feeling. I need to go into seclusion immediately. Du Yunlong nodded and said, it's not just us. The other members of the Du family are also in a similar situation. Du Tingxuan's primordial spirit spread out and discovered more things. Let's go. Du Yunlong did not hesitate at all and disappeared in a flash. Following this, Du Tingxian and Du Xiaojing also disappeared. Only Zhen Qingchun, Yi Piaoling, Changguyu, and the others were left. This must be related to Xiaofu. Looks like that kid's cultivation has increased even more after going to the 33 heavens. Zhen Qingchun smacked his lips. Everyone with the bloodline of the Du family was fluctuating. With their current cultivation level of the God-seizing stage, they could naturally sense it clearly. They could see that it was the fluctuation of the soul, the increase of life force. The fluctuation of the law of soul in this world is increasing. Although it can't be compared to the bloodline of the Du family, it's still very extraordinary. I think I also need to go into seclusion and strive for another breakthrough. Suddenly, Chang Guyu gently turned around and stepped away, disappearing into the void. Let's also go into seclusion. At least when Xiaofu comes back, we can't be too far behind him. Following this, Zhen Qingchun, Yi Piaoling, and the others also left. Qian Su Jing Huang Heaven. Du Xiaofu was still in seclusion in the Lion Ancestors Ridge, concentrating on comprehending the law of soul. As time passed, the fluctuation of the barren soul space became stronger and stronger, waking Lion Yi up outside. Master. Lion Yi's eyes were clear. He was very surprised by all these changes. In his perception, layers of vast life force were being emitted, affecting the entire Lion Ancestors Ridge. Everywhere was covered in a layer of sparkling green light. The trees that grew on Lion Ancestors Ridge were sprouting buds at a speed visible to the naked eye and then blooming. Such a scene surprised all the members of the Lion Ancestors Ridge. This fluctuation of the law of soul is very extraordinary. Where is it coming from? Could it be that someone in our clan has comprehended a part of the law of soul and broken through to the truth-severing stage? This aura is much stronger than the average truth-severing stage. I'm afraid he's qualified to enter the land of inheritance. Many people in Lion Ancestors Ridge were very surprised. They were shocked by this powerful life force. This was not an ordinary fluctuation. The movement caused by it was much stronger than that of the average truth-severing stage expert. To be able to emit such power of the law of soul, one must have an extremely high status in the Lion Ancestors Ridge. They were probably only below the immortal stage experts. Within the barren soul space, Du Xiaofu's body was emitting a bright green light that carried a powerful life force. At this moment, in his mind's Naiwen Palace, the law mark that he had obtained in the tomb of Heavenly Tao was shining. Countless amounts of mystic energy shuttled through this space and overlapped with the law mark. Roar! The redbone horse monkey's primordial spirit suddenly let out an earth-shaking roar. A terrifying soul force rippled out and a fierce aura burst out, containing a vigorous aura. Swish! In the outside world, Du Xiaofu's body suddenly opened a pair of eyes. Divine light shot out from within. As his eyes opened and closed, it was as if he could see the evolution of all living things and the rotation of heaven and earth. The law of soul has finally made a preliminary breakthrough. Du Xiaofu muttered. At the same time, he could not suppress his joy. After several years of comprehension, he had finally entered the threshold of the law of soul. Although it was not enough to reach the early stage of truth-severing stage, it was many times more profound than before. This was a qualitative change and also a quantitative change. He had broken through the invisible shackles and stepped into a brand new world. Continue to comprehend and strive to reach the early stage of truth-severing stage in the law of soul as soon as possible. Du Xiaofu let out a long breath and secretly said in his heart. He did not delay any longer. Following that, he closed his eyes and began to comprehend on a deeper level. This land of inheritance of the Lion Ancestors' Manticore clan was not ordinary. At this moment, Du Xiaofu had not truly accepted the inheritance here. The comprehension he had gained over the past few years was all relying on the fluctuations of the laws around him to cultivate. Under the situation where he had not entered the threshold of the law of soul, he did not dare to touch the true inheritance. One had to know that members of the Lion Ancestors' Manticore clan were born with talent in the law of soul. However, if one was not a true genius of the clan, no one had the qualifications to enter here to accept the inheritance. It was not only a matter of qualifications, but also a matter of risk. It was no small matter. If one rashly entered the desolate soul space, most people would only face death. Buzz, buzz, buzz. In the desolate soul space, waves of powerful fluctuations spread out and were clearly sensed by Lion 1. His eyes could not help but palpitate. His fists unconsciously clenched tightly as he secretly encouraged Du Xiaofu. Master has begun to accept the true inheritance. I hope he can succeed in one go and reach the true truth-severing stage in the Law of Soul. Lion 1 muttered as he looked at the desolate soul space enveloped by the array. The land of inheritance of the Lion ancestors' Manticore clan was not just about inheritance. It also contained risks. Not everyone had the qualifications to enter. Therefore, Lion 1 knew that Du Xiaofu would definitely face some dangers. As long as he successfully withstood them, he would definitely obtain great benefits. Time passed slowly. In the blink of an eye, another half a year had passed. During this period of time, the entire Lion Ancestors Ridge was enveloped in multicolored light. A tyrannical vitality pervaded every corner. The trees in the forest became exceptionally green and tender. At the same time, everyone in the Lion Ancestors Manticore clan was like a spring breeze. They were enveloped by the Law of Soul, and each of them obtained great benefits. For those with average cultivation, they only hoped that this situation would continue. This was because cultivating in this environment was much faster than usual. However, all of this would eventually be broken one day. Roar! A terrifying beast roar suddenly drifted out and shook the entire Lion Ancestors Ridge. Many of the Lion Ancestors Manticore clan members whose cultivation was below the truth-severing realm suddenly felt their knees go weak and they prostrated themselves. They felt the terrifying throbbing of their souls and directly knelt under the terrifying pressure. In addition, many of the truth-severing realm powerhouses' eyes were trembling as they were extremely shocked. The Law of Soul is fluctuating. It seems to be related to the land of inheritance. Could it be that another powerhouse in the clan has obtained the inheritance? What a powerful Law of Soul. Another powerhouse in our clan is about to be born. After obtaining the inheritance, he will definitely soar into the sky and become the cornerstone of the Lion Ancestors Manticore clan. Various parts of Lion Ancestors Ridge, many people were shocked as they spoke. Many of them had personally experienced such changes and knew that it was related to the land of inheritance. However, very few people knew that it was Du Xiaofu who had entered it. Only a few of the immortal powerhouses in the clan knew about this. After obtaining the inheritance, I'm afraid that in a few years, another immortal powerhouse will be born in our clan. Many of the truth-severing realm powerhouses spoke, their eyes filled with endless envy. Those who could obtain the inheritance were all people with extraordinary talents. After successfully obtaining the inheritance, stepping into the immortal realm was just around the corner. This made everyone pleasantly surprised. With every new immortal powerhouse in the clan, the overall strength of the clan would increase by a bit. This was an absolute benefit. Is Master coming out of seclusion? Outside the desolate soul space, Lion 1's eyes twitched as he looked at the array. As he spoke, the terrifying pressure in the air retreated like flowing water, disappearing without a trace. Then, a purple-robed young man stepped out and arrived in front of Lion 1. Congratulations, Master, for breaking through to the early stage of the truth-severing realm in the Law of Soul. Seeing the purple-robed young man walk over, Lion 1 hurriedly bowed respectfully and saluted him. The inheritance of the desolate soul space is indeed extraordinary. Du Xiaofu's lips curled into a smile as he spoke calmly. He turned around and looked at the desolate soul space, feeling rather emotional. Every clan in the 33 heavens was very powerful. They were much more terrifying than his forces in the divine battle world. Although the primordial Manticore clan was far inferior to the Taisher demon dragon, green blood giant, and divine netherworld clan, they were still extraordinary. At least for the current Du Xiaofu, this was already a great opportunity. When he truly received the inheritance, he had indeed experienced a great deal of danger. The terrifying fluctuations of the laws of soul carried a ferocious and all-pervasive force that wanted to melt his soul and devour his vitality, turning it into the purest law energy. However, Du Xiaofu had once successfully refined the Azure Dragon Blood essence. When he displayed the second transformation of the Azure Spirit armor, the Azure Dragon body, he did not expend too much energy to resist all of the corrosive power. Then, he gained a very deep understanding of the law of soul. This understanding allowed Du Xiaofu to go from nothing to truly grasping the early stage of the truth-severing realm at this level. Such a harvest made him feel pleasantly surprised. Master's talent is truly powerful. Lion 1 slowly stood up and kept smacking his lips, saying, "In terms of Master's age and cultivation, even among the same generation in the 33 heavens, he is an extremely powerful existence. Even among the disciples of the superforces, there are very few who can compare to Master." He looked at Du Xiaofu with a deep look of disbelief. Because he had a contractual relationship with Du Xiaofu, Lion 1 had a good understanding of this purple-robed youth in front of him. To this day, he had cultivated for less than 100 years. Yet, he had already reached such a terrifying level. Even in the entire 33 heavens, it would be difficult to find anyone who could be compared to him. What was even more terrifying was that Lion 1 knew that Du Xiaofu had dabbled in the law of time, the law of space, the law of matter, and the law of soul. Among them, the law of soul was a recent breakthrough and was his weakest technique. This was terrifying. Not to mention whether or not anyone could do such a thing, even if there were, very few people would be willing to do it. Who didn't know that it was extremely difficult to comprehend each of the 4 great laws of origin to perfection? In the truth-severing realm, most living beings would only choose one law to cultivate. Even so, there were countless powerhouses who were trapped in this realm and were unable to step into the immortal realm. However, not only did Du Xiaofu do this, but he also did it to the extreme. He specially came to the primordial Manticore tribe to accept the inheritance here and obtain a breakthrough in the law of soul. Could it be that Master? Thinking of this, Lion 1 couldn't help but think of a terrifying possibility. He felt that Du Xiaofu was probably going to walk a path that no one had ever walked before and surpass the immortal realm with all 4 of the primordial laws. If this was true, then it was too shocking. Even in the entire 33 heavens, such a guess would cause a huge uproar and cause countless people to exclaim in admiration. This was definitely a magnificent feat. Regardless of success or failure, it would be praised by everyone. If by any chance he succeeded, then when Du Xiaofu was at the first sky of Immortal Realm, he would be able to fight against the third sky of Immortal Realm or even higher experts. So much time has passed. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. He didn't pay attention to Lion 1's astonishment and instead calculated the time that had passed. He couldn't help but sigh when he got the result. This time's seclusion took too long. More than 6 years had passed. How many 6 years had it been since he started cultivating? Only now did Du Xiaofu realize how difficult it was to comprehend a primordial law. In the past, when he had comprehended the law of space and the law of matter, it was almost a matter of course. Compared to this time, he didn't need to spend too much effort. It's been almost 10 years since I came to the 33 heavens. Du Xiaofu sighed and said while looking at the void. He didn't know how his family, friends, and loved ones in the divine martial world were doing. They must be feeling suffocated in that world. In truth, what Du Xiaofu didn't know was that Shenwu world had already undergone numerous changes. The entire world had expanded by over 50 times, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth had become incomparably rich. Countless living beings were cultivating at a rapid pace. Although they were still far from being able to compare to the 33 heavens, compared to the past, it was as if the heavens and earth had changed. There's still some time before the 100-year deadline. Seems like there's more than enough time to go to the Yamato Aroki clan. Du Xiaofu calculated. There were still more than 90 years before the 100-year deadline that Yu Qian had given him. He came to the Qian Su Jinghua heaven to accept the inheritance of the Chimera Lion clan and the Yamato Naroki clan. He hoped that he could make a breakthrough in the law of matter and the law of soul. It was still early. As long as he made good use of the time, he didn't need to worry about missing the training in the Divine Devil battlefield. Besides, Du Xiaofu also thought that half of the origin space had already passed. When he returned from the Qiansu Jinghua heaven, he should be able to see He Zhibai, Yu Chengliang, and the others. Everything in Lion Ancestors Ridge remains the same. As long as the outside world doesn't know that I came here, it's fine. Du Xiaofu didn't stay in the Chimera Lion clan for long. After warning Lion 1, he left directly and rushed towards the Tsanghuan Grotto where the Yamatonoroki clan resided. He wasn't worried about the safety of this clan. After he planted the Blood Soul seal, the Chimera Lion clan was absolutely loyal to him. As long as the outside world didn't know about this, they shouldn't encounter any accidents. Chapter 2802. Du Xiaofu left Lion Ancestors Ridge and headed for Tsanghuan Grotto. After a few years, the Qiansu Jinghua heaven had already calmed down completely. No major events had happened. The huge commotion caused by his party in the past had already subsided. Very few people talked about it anymore. After all, the primordial demon dragon, the green blood giants, and the divine netherworld clan had issued orders that the news of the successful escape of more than 200 humans was not to be leaked to the outside world. Therefore, the more than 100,000 beasts who had participated in the encirclement had kept their mouths shut. This made all the beasts in the Qiansu Jinghua heaven believe that those arrogant humans had already been annihilated and died without a burial ground. Tsanghuan Grotto. Not many days later, Du Xiaofu's figure appeared in the void and looked down. That large mountain range looked like it was riddled with holes. Every hole was wide open, looking like the flesh and blood of living creatures. It made one's scalp tingle. This was the territory of the Yamada no Orochi clan. All the experts of this clan lived in those holes. Du Xiaofu did not delay. He flew down directly and entered Tsanghuan Grotto. The leader of the Yamada no Orochi clan received him. This leader was named Shi by Du Xiaofu. At Du Xiaofu's request, Shi took him to the place of inheritance of the Yamada no Orochi clan. It was a place called Tsanghuan Grotto. Du Xiaofu did not even think and directly entered it. The racial talent of the Yamada no Orochi clan was the law of matter. They were born with 8 heads. Each head represented a derivative state of the law of matter. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, thunder, and so on. For the Yamada no Orochi clan, they were born with an extreme compatibility with the law of matter. As their cultivation base continued to deepen, they could gradually comprehend the law of matter. Their 8 heads represented the derivative forms of the 8 matter laws. Once they reached the immortal realm, they could fuse all the matter laws into one. Then the 8 heads would fuse into one, and they would look exactly the same as a real human. That state was the ultimate state of cultivation for the Yamada no Orochi clan experts. It was the state that everyone in this clan wanted to reach, the state of meditative forgetfulness. It could be said that the law form of the Yamada no Orochi clan's talent did not include all the derivative states of the law of matter, but it was definitely not far from it. Tsanghuan Grotto? Du Xiaofu was. He did not know whether this place of the Yamada no Orochi clan's inheritance would allow him to improve his comprehension of the law of matter ors. He did not thought without thinking, he directly into the cave. Colorful lights flashed past as the cave entrance was once again sealed. Du Xiaofu's figure had also disappeared. After he entered, Shi did not leave immediately. Instead, he looked at the cave entrance that was shining with the light of the array formation. In his line of sight, it did not take long for the power of thunder and lightning and the power of fire to emanate, rippling in the void. Master should be able to make a big breakthrough in the law of matter in the Tsanghuan Grotto. Snake One could tell that Du Xiaofu had reached the perfection realm in the law of thunder and lightning and the law of fire. At the same time, he also had some comprehension of the law of water. In this way, it might not be too difficult to accept the inheritance of the Tsanghuan Grotto. After looking around for a while, Snake One found a nearby cave entrance and also disappeared. Time flowed by like water, ceaselessly passing by. Quietly 3 years passed. During this period, all of Du Xiaofu's Tsanghuan Grotto constantly emitted the power of thunder and lightning and the power of fire. At the same time, the void seemed to be condensed into liquid, with a series of water ripples constantly spreading out. Until one day after 3 years, the water ripples reached a peak and no longer increased. In the sky, it was as if it had transformed into a boundless ocean. Jade waves rippled, and clear waves surged into the sky and charged into the 9 heavens. The law of water has reached the perfection realm. It's about to reach the perfection realm. Snake 1 shot out from the hole at the side, and its 8 heads twisted in the air. There was an indescribable surprise in his eyes. Du Xiaofu's speed was much faster than he had imagined. Although the law of water was still a little short of the perfection realm at this time, it was not far away. However, it was understandable. There was an extremely pure law of matter energy in the Zhonghuan Grotto. Du Xiaofu was originally on the path of the law of water, and he had made a breakthrough with the help of the underworld river's weak water that he had snatched from Dai Xuanjin. In the land of inheritance of the Yamada no Orochi clan, he could make a step further by constantly comprehending and reaching the perfection realm. It could be said that success was achieved when the conditions were right. However, just as Snake 1 was sighing to himself, an even more terrifying aura suddenly rose abruptly, carrying with it a vast and pervasive pressure that suppressed every inch of the void. Even though Snake 1 was now an immortal realm expert, he felt the corners of his eyes trembling under this terrifying pressure. What kind of technique is this? Huge waves appeared in the 16 eyes of Snake 1's 8 heads as he looked at the scene in the sky in disbelief. In his line of sight, a huge 8 trigrams figure appeared, occupying the sky with a radius of hundreds of miles. It was as if it was engraved there, releasing a metallic texture and luster. Under this 8 trigrams figure, large patches of lightning rose, and at the same time, clusters of raging flames burned fiercely. Then the shape of a lake and sea evolved. Lightning, raging flames, and the lake and sea intertwined and reflected each other, releasing a vast aura that caused the entire void to boil. However, all of this did not end there. After the law of lightning, the law of fire, and the law of water appeared, more scenes changed again. Rumble. A thick layer of earth shook, as if a heavy mountain had descended, causing the void to tremble uncontrollably. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A green light scattered, and a large forest scene evolved, revealing itself under the 8 trigrams figure in the void. Chi-la-la. Huff, huff, huff. All kinds of strange auras constantly fluctuated, and the void seemed to boil, with energy of various attributes constantly appearing out of thin air. In just a few breaths of time, under the huge 8 trigrams figure, heavenly lightning and earthly fire intertwined, the earth and mountains rumbled, the mountains, rivers, lakes, and lakes evolved, and all things in the world flourished. The law of matter, mutual promotion and restraint. The 8 trigrams figure, this is the evolution of the law of matter. In just a short time, Snake 1 saw through the door and could not help but exclaim in shock, standing on the spot in horror. Of course, he knew that the law of matter had the attribute of mutual promotion and restraint. As a member of the Yamato Orochi clan who was born with the talent of many law of matter derivations, he was very clear on this point. In theory, as long as one grasped the derivation of a law of matter, one could use the principle of mutual promotion and restraint to derive other law of matter. However, this was only in theory. This step sounded simple, but to achieve it was more difficult than ascending to the heavens. If it was really that simple, then wouldn't all the true severing powerhouses in the 33 heavens be able to break through to the immortal realm? But now, Snake 1 could clearly feel that the 8 trigrams in the void in the sky was clearly deducing the transformation of the law of matter. It was mysterious and unfathomable. What happened? Did Master make a breakthrough? The commotion here quickly attracted the attention of more powerhouses, and the rest of the immortal realm powerhouses of the Yamato no Orochi clan quickly arrived. Quick, seal this place, don't let this aura leak out. Snake 1 only came to his senses at this time and hurriedly ordered the others to work together to display their cultivation, enveloping the area within 1,000 miles and completely isolating it. Du Xiaofu's commotion would cause a lot of trouble if the powerhouses in the outside world knew about it. However, under the deliberate concealment of these powerhouses, unless there were powerhouses at the 8th sky or 9th sky of the immortal realm, they wouldn't be exposed to the outside world. What is Master doing? After doing all this, the powerhouses who came here were all shocked. They looked at the huge 8 trigrams in the void, and they all felt extremely shocked. Everyone present was an immortal realm powerhouse, and all of them had comprehended the derivation of all the law of matter and were in the process of merging them. Under their perception, the truth and falsehood of the 8 trigrams in the void were naturally seen clearly by them. This 8 trigrams is really extraordinary. It actually includes all the derivation of the law of matter. They evolved and intertwined with each other. The principle of mutual promotion and restraint is explained by this 8 trigrams in the void. Snake 1 recovered from his initial shock, and his eyes trembled as he spoke. He felt that under the 8 trigrams in the 8 trigrams, the most real thing was the power of thunder and lightning, the power of fire, and the power of water. However, with the help of these 3, and the principle of mutual promotion, more law fluctuations were derived. Although these fluctuations were only in the embryonic form, they were enough to explain the mysteries within. Master's method is so powerful. I'm afraid that even if he doesn't come to my Yamada no Orochi clan, as long as he has this 8 trigrams, as his cultivation deepens, he will quickly comprehend more forms of the law of matter. Some powerhouses muttered, their eyes looking straight at the sky. Immortal realm powerhouses naturally had the most right to speak about the mutual promotion and restraint of the law of matter. However, to be able to do the same as Du Xiaofu in the true severing realm, to be able to achieve mutual promotion and restraint of the law of matter, was really shocking. Let's wait and see. I'm afraid that when Master comes out of seclusion, his strength will be extremely strong. Snake 1 calmed his mind and said softly. He wasn't in a hurry, because ordinary powerhouses in the true severing realm wanted to comprehend a complete primitive law of matter. This process was incomparably long. Even the most talented person in the 33 heavens would need at least a few thousand years to be able to do so. Therefore, Snake 1 wasn't in a hurry at all. Master's seclusion this time would take at least a few hundred years. And at that time, it was very likely that he would directly reach the late stage of true severing realm in the law of matter, and comprehend 60 to 70%. This kind of cultivation, among the same generation in the 33 heavens, he wouldn't dare say that no one could compare to him, but he would definitely be able to count on one's fingers. Snake 1 sent the rest of the people away. Only he stayed here and waited quietly. Time continued to pass. But Du Xiaofu, who was in seclusion, didn't have any idea of what was going on. On his body, the aura was rolling, and there was a vast demonic aura. With the help of the 8 trigrams of the void he obtained from the ruler of the 3,000 major worlds, he worked hard to explore the relationships between the different forms of the law of matter and slowly sorted out the rules within. Also, while he was in seclusion, the distant Shenwu world was also undergoing a huge change. What was different from before was that this time, the entire world was filled with all kinds of energy. The originally expanded land was now filled with spiritual herbs, and it was more than 10 times richer than before. Between heaven and earth, energy was vast and mighty, and it was as if it was dancing in the air, shocking everyone. The waves in the long river were roaring, the flames in the secret land were roaring, the heavenly stone trees were rising again, and the blazing sun in the sky was even brighter. It was truly an earth-shattering change, and all living beings were inexplicably shocked, but at the same time, they were filled with indescribable joy. This world was developing in a good direction, and it was thriving. The suppression of heaven and earth, after every change, would weaken a bit, and the upper limit of cultivation for living beings would be refreshed again and again. Every time Shenwu world changed, it would bring benefits to countless living beings. Especially those with the blood of the Du family flowing in their veins, their strength would all increase with a whoosh 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 sound. I can already break through to the mid-stage of the seizing divinity realm. Du Tingxian, Du Xiaojing, Du Yunlong, and the others were all overjoyed. With these changes, they were at the forefront of all living beings in this world, reaching the mid-stage of the seizing divinity realm, which was also the limit of cultivation in this world. The Du family's special situation made everyone envious. However, The other living beings also improved greatly. Yi Piaoling, Chang Guyu, Zhen Qingchun, Jialo Jueyu, and the others were all able to stabilize their cultivation in the early stage of the seizing divinity realm. With such a terrifying cultivation, if placed in the past, they would be able to fight directly with the demon god. In other words, Du Tingxian, Du Shaojing, Du Yunlong, Yi Piaoling, Chang Guyu, Jialo Jueyu, and Zhen Qingchun were now much stronger than the demon god was back then. And that wasn't the end of it. As more and more great sages made breakthroughs, more and more great sages were born. There were even great sages who had broken through to the seizing god level, although their foundations weren't stable enough. Compared to when Du Xiaofu had just left, the strength of the entire Shenwu world had increased by countless times. It could be said that the current Shenwu world was completely different from the other small worlds. There was a fundamental difference. These changes are still ongoing. Everyone, go into seclusion and try to break through. The suppression of the world was weakening, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was dense, and the resources were abundant. Not only did this world not become a treasure, but it also became more peaceful. In fact, during the great calamity of the devil religion, everyone in Shenwu world worked together to fight against the devil religion. They had already formed a bond of life and death, and the grudges of the past were all put aside, becoming a thing of the past. The beings of the 3 continents, Kyushu, and the others also faintly regarded the desolate country as their leader, and it was very harmonious. Amidst the upheaval of the world, everyone was too busy cultivating and making breakthroughs, not to mention having the time to scheme against each other and compete with each other. I didn't think that in my lifetime I would be able to see such a huge change. This is so exciting. A powerhouse of the older generation mumbled to himself, his heart full of excitement. They had experienced the great calamity of the devil religion, and also witnessed Du Xiaofu's fierce battle against the demon god. Now that Shenwu world was thriving, they were all very excited. No one dared to imagine what this world would eventually grow to in the future. This filled countless people with anticipation. In the following months and years, Shenwu world became strangely peaceful. It was a peaceful scene, and there were no large-scale battles between living beings. Even if they went out to search for spiritual medicines after their seclusion, when they found out that someone else had gotten there before them, they would immediately change their destination and continue their search elsewhere. Almost everyone had the same thought. If they had the time to fight with others to the death and steal spiritual medicines, they might as well go to other places to search. Perhaps they would be able to obtain even greater rewards. All in all, the Shenwu world was growing stronger and stronger in peace. Whether it was the world's energy or the overall cultivation of living beings, they all had a huge increase. Unparalleled Changrong Heaven. On the 10th year of Du Xiaofu's seclusion in the heavenly cave, the training in the origin space finally ended. Hiji Bai, Yucheng Liang, Hiji Xen, Yucheng Shi, Yucheng Gu, Huiyu Guang, Duan Yizong, Yucheng Yu, and the other young powerhouses all walked out. Everyone's aura had become much stronger. Early stage truth severing, Ji Bai is not bad. At the exit of the origin space, Imperial Marshal Divine General Hui Yuankun looked at the young man who walked out and said with a smile, Yu Guang is also very strong. He's also in the early stage of truth severing. Beside Hui Yuankun, Cloud Spirit Divine General Duan Baichuan laughed and added, 4th Prince, 5th Prince, 6th Prince, Little Princess, these 4 are also in the truth-severing realm. As more and more people appeared, everyone discovered that besides He Jibai and Hui Youguang, the 4th Prince Yu Qinggu, the 5th Prince Yu Qingqi, the 6th Prince Yu Chengliang, the Little Princess Yu Qingyu, and the others had all reached the truth-severing realm. That kid Yizong is already at the peak of the early stage of truth-severing. This is too terrifying. Suddenly, Zihong Divine General He Mengchang exclaimed in surprise as he looked at a young man in the crowd. This young man was none other than the son of Cloud Spirit Divine General Duan Baichuan, Duan Yizong. Back then, he had fought together with Du Xiaofu against Wen Yiming, Tantai Ruchuan, and the others. At this moment, a powerhouse beside them let out a strange cry as he pointed at the crowd. Following the direction he pointed, several young people were flying in from the exit. These people were seen by the three divine generals and were not unfamiliar at all. Jixin, third prince, and the others have also reached the peak of the early stage of truth severing. They are only one step away from entering the middle stage of truth severing. Everyone's eyes were filled with shock. Other than Duan Yizong, there were actually two other people who had reached such a terrifying cultivation. Chapter 2803. The people from the divine general's manors exclaimed when they saw the crowd of people rushing out of the immemorial space. It's not just them. Many people from the other forces have reached the truth-severing realm as well. Imperial Marshal Divine General Hui Yuankun looked at the crowd and said in surprise. Other than the young disciples from the divine general's manors and the imperial family, many people from the other forces had reached the truth-severing realm. This kind of improvement was really terrifying. After all, it had only been 20 years since they entered the immemorial space, but there were already more than 100 people who had reached the truth-severing realm. At this time, there were even more God-seizing realm cultivators. Among the 700,000 to 800,000 people, the majority were at the void-returning realm. But now, almost half of them had reached the God-seizing realm, which was a great breakthrough. It seems that they have all obtained great opportunities in the immemorial space this time. Divine General Yunling Duan Baichuan couldn't help but sigh. In 20 years, all the young experts in the Yuqing Divine Kingdom's sphere of influence had improved so much that it made people sigh. Actually, all of this is within our expectations. After all, the opening of the immemorial space this time is different from the past. The more people who enter, the greater the opportunities that can be found. Divine General Zihong He Mengchang pondered for a moment and said, every time the immemorial space opened, the most outstanding disciples would be selected to enter. They were all at least at the God-seizing realm. But this time was different. Apart from the God-seizing realm cultivators, anyone who had reached the void-returning realm and had cultivated for less than 1,000 years could enter and obtain their own opportunities. With a large number of people entering, everyone was naturally able to discover more benefits. Such a huge improvement was barely within their expectations. If it wasn't for the rebellion of the 7 divine generals' manors, I'm afraid that after this, there would be many more truth-severing realm cultivators in the Yuqing Divine Kingdom's younger generation. Hui Yuankun suddenly sighed and said leisurely, Divine General Taishu Mansion, Divine General Yuan Ding Mansion, Divine General Xian Huang Mansion, Divine General Nye Huang Mansion, Divine General Xianzhan Mansion, Divine General Yin He Mansion, and Divine General Tsang Luan Mansion. Because of the rebellion, the immemorial space's disciples were all killed. Not a single one of them. Their subordinate manors were all strong. If not for them, many severing realm cultivators would be born at this time. This as their war's art, because they great die because their families is there because their father. He divine general, and you emperor eat, and at the same time, Yu Qingxi, Yu Qinggu, Yu Qingqi, Yu Qengliang, and Yu Qingyu also came to their side. The disciples of the other factions also had their elders come to greet them. Seeing that their disciples' cultivation had increased by leaps and bounds, everyone's faces were blooming with smiles. Brother Jibai, Sister Jixin, Brother Yizong, Brother Youguang, Brother Chengliang, Sister Qingyu. Just as the 3 divine generals and the group of young people were about to greet each other, a fat and round man suddenly squeezed himself between them. The fat man had really squeezed his way in. His body was so big that he looked like a fat ball. He squeezed Yu Chengliang and He Jibai so hard that they staggered. Brother Fan, what can I do for you? He Jibai and Yu Chengliang smiled helplessly and asked. He. The fat man who squeezed into the crowd was none other than Fan Yushu, who had met Du Xiaofu in the immemorial space. He came from a faction called the Divine Black Sect, which was not weak in the Yuqing Divine Kingdom. At this time, he had also reached the true severing realm, which was simply amazing. Fan Yushu faced He Jibai and the others, cupped his hands and bowed in a circle, and said with a smile, "Thank you all for taking care of me in the immemorial space. Otherwise, It would be difficult for me to have the opportunity to break through to the true severing realm so quickly. Although there was a mischievous smile on his face, his words were very sincere. Just as he said, after the chaos in the 7 divine generals' residences in the immemorial space had subsided, these people did take great care of him and gave him a share of many benefits. Otherwise, with the fat man's cultivation at the late stage of the soul-seizing realm, it would have been a long way to go for him to reach the true severing realm. We are all disciples of the divine kingdom, and have traveled together in the immemorial space for so many years. Fatty, why are you being so polite? He Jibai and He Jibai did not speak, but the third prince, Yu Qingshi, who was wearing golden battle armor, laughed softly and said to Fan Yushu, "If you really treat me as an outsider, then I'll be embarrassed to say these things to you." The fat man was still chuckling. He thought about it and continued, "I'll be returning to the divine black sect first. I'll have to trouble you all to send my regards to Brother Xiaofu when you return to the city." In fact, Fan Yushu knew very well that these princes and disciples of the divine general's residences were taking care of him all because of Du Xiaofu. After all, the two of them had traveled together and experienced the predicament of the divine barren heaven lock formation together. "Why don't you come with us to Yuyang Divine City and meet Brother Du again?" He Jibai revealed a gentle smile. After interacting with the fat man for more than 10 years, they were very familiar with each other and did not treat him as an outsider at all. If the fat man was willing, he could let him stay in the Zihong Divine General's residence and meet Du Xiaofu together. However, just as He Jibai finished speaking, He Mengchang opened his mouth and said softly, "That brat Du Xiaofu is currently in closed-door cultivation. I haven't seen him for more than 10 years. After you return, I'm afraid you won't be able to see him for a while." Seclusion for more than 10 years? The group of young experts widened their eyes in shock. Du Xiaofu's performance in the origin space was particularly eye-catching and suppressed the limelight of countless people. It was his own strength that overturned the conspiracy of the 7 divine generals' residences and the ultimate spirit's sacred ground, saving countless people. It could be said that when Du Xiaofu left the origin space, his cultivation was much stronger than everyone else's. However, now that he had been in seclusion for more than 10 years, one could imagine that with his terrifying talent, he would definitely improve and leave them even further behind. I wonder when Brother Xiaofu will come out of seclusion. He should have stabilized at the mid-stage of true severing by now and is trying to break through to the late stage of true severing, right? He Jibai muttered and said so, a bitter smile hanging on the corner of his mouth. It seemed that he could forget about surpassing Du Xiaofu in this lifetime. However, at the same time, he also had expectations and hoped to see Du Xiaofu break through to an even higher realm. Haha, hearing He Jibai's words, the 3 divine generals couldn't help but laugh. "Father, uncles, what are you laughing at?" At this time, He Jixin stepped forward and cast a puzzled look at the 3 of them. "Ha, you're wrong. Du Xiaofu was already at the late stage of true severing more than 10 years ago." After laughing for a while, Duan Baichuan said with great emotion, "What?" He Jibai, He Jixin, Yu Qingliang, Yu Qingshi, Fan Yushu, and the others all turned pale with fright when they heard this. Late stage of true severing? And it was something that happened more than 10 years ago? This was too terrifying, wasn't it? How on earth did Du Xiaofu that guy cultivate? How was this normal cultivation? It was simply flying, okay? Compared to him, all of them were just trash. How the fuck do you want us to live? Chen Cheng scolded with a bitter face. When the others heard this, they all nodded their heads like chicks pecking at rice. That's not all. That kid also did something big back then. He brought more than 200 immortal-level experts from the Divine Nation and stirred up the entire Qian Su Jinghua heaven. He Mengchang chuckled softly and said this again. When he spoke, he set up a barrier around them. Except for the few people around him, the others on the periphery couldn't hear it. This, Yu Qingliang, He Jibai, He Jixin, Fan Yushu, Yu Qingshi, and the others were all stunned. The shock in their hearts couldn't be any greater. After the narration of the 3 divine generals, everyone clearly understood what happened back then. They couldn't help but admire Du Xiaofu, that guy. No matter where he went, he could stir up trouble. Not only did he cause a lot of trouble among his peers in the primeval dimension, but he even brought more than 200 immortal-level experts from the Divine Kingdom with him, which alarmed the entire Qian-Su Jinghua heaven. Facing the siege of many races, Du Xiaofu even took the lead to hold a feast of beast meat. In the end, more than 100,000 immortal-level experts were dispatched, and the meditative realm was born to suppress Du Xiaofu and the others. But in the end, they still retreated unscathed and returned to the supreme Changrong heaven and the Yuqing divine nation intact. How could such a terrifying act not make people's hearts beat wildly? What was awesome? This was absolutely awesome. That kind of scene, just thinking about it made people's blood boil all over, right? How did that guy do it? Fatty Fan Yushu blinked. He couldn't believe it was true. It sounded like a dream. However, there were some things that the three divine generals knew very well. They couldn't say anything to the younger generation. At the very least, they couldn't mention the existence of that bloody slaughter. Moreover, they didn't know where Yu Taiyin borrowed that blood-gold long blade from the Qian-Su Jinghua heaven. They could imagine that behind the Yuqing divine nation, there was definitely a colossus so powerful that it made people's hair stand on end. It was so terrifying that it was hard to estimate. Brother Xiaofu is really. Yu Qingxi and Duan Yizong both felt speechless and powerless at the same time. Du Xiaofu had already left them in the dust. He actually had so many interactions with immortal-level experts. That was definitely not a feat that an ordinary person could accomplish. If this spread out, it would definitely shock the 33 heavens. But obviously, the Yuqing divine nation didn't intend to spread this matter. It was just that they weren't outsiders, so they knew part of it. In a few decades, that guy should also come out of seclusion. At that time, another grand event is about to happen. In the next few decades, you should also properly stabilize your own realms. Hopefully, you'll be able to obtain more opportunities at that time. Hui Yuankuan didn't say anything more about Du Xiaofu's matter. Instead, he changed the topic and said to the group of young people around him, "Another grand event?" Everyone was surprised, but they didn't feel too surprised. After all, the training in the origin space this time was different from the past. It allowed void-returning realm experts to enter. Therefore, some people had already guessed that the origin space was just a foundation. There was an even bigger event waiting for them later. The next grand event should be many times grander than the origin space. Jibai said softly. He looked at his father, wanting to know the answer. He had made such a deduction in the past and told Du Xiaofu, but he didn't know the details. That's right. In about 70 or 80 years, a secret place called the Fiend God Battlefield will open. At that time, all of you will also enter. This isn't just a matter for the Yuqing divine nation. The entire 35 sacred lands and 72 divine nations of the supreme Changrong heaven will participate. He Mengchang nodded and said. He didn't hide the fact that the absolute spirit sacred ground had been destroyed. The entire supreme Changrong heaven, 35 sacred lands and 72 divine nations will all participate. Hearing this news, Yu Chengliang, He Jixin, Fan Yushu, Duan Yizong, and the others were shocked again. Just the Yuqing divine kingdom alone had already produced so many young talents. One could only imagine how grand the event would be when the time came. One had to know that the overall strength of the Yuqing divine nation wasn't considered very strong among the 72 divine nations. It wasn't outstanding at all. Of course, this was excluding the thousands of immortal cultivators that the divine emperor had brought from other worlds. Among the younger generation, the Yuqing divine nation wasn't strong in the entire supreme Changrong heaven. Each of the 35 sacred lands was a terrifying existence. Many of the young experts that walked out of them were at the late-stage truth-severing realm like Du Xiaofu. However, Du Xiaofu hadn't cultivated for long. Those young experts couldn't compare to him. The Fiend God Battlefield, I must go. Fatty Fan Yushu rubbed his hands vigorously, his eyes twinkling like stars. How could he miss out on something that would benefit him? Naturally, he had to participate. Let's go. When we return, we'll stabilize our cultivation. If we can make some progress in the next few decades, that would be even better. Hui Yuankuan looked at everyone and said, After that He Jibai, Yu Chengliang, Yu Qingxi, and the others bade farewell to Fan Yushu. The group broke through the void and headed for the Divine City. Fan Yushu also left with the elders of the Divine Black Sect who came to pick him up. The top 10,000 cultivators in the origin space were tallied by the Divine Nations. Everything came to an end very quickly. It could be said that after experiencing the experience of the origin space, as long as one was able to walk out alive, they would have a great harvest. While many people were excited, they were also rubbing their hands together. This was because news of the Divine Devil battlefield had already spread. They were all looking forward to the arrival of this grand event. Everyone wanted to see what kind of sparks would fly between the youths of the 35 sacred lands and 72 divine nations. The 33 heavens was very peaceful. Nothing too big happened. At the very least, in the Supreme Changrong heaven and Qian Su Jinghua heaven, everything was the same as usual. The major powers maintained a peaceful balance. It was precisely amidst such peace and tranquility that time silently flowed by, and it was like quicksand that vanished without anyone noticing, causing it to be impossible to pursue any longer. Under such circumstances, another 60 years passed unknowingly. Over the past 60 years, Yuqing God Kingdom had been very peaceful. However, the thousands of immortal realm masters who had followed Yu Taiyan to this world had all left. No one knew where they had gone to train themselves. Even the Eternals wanted to make a deeper breakthrough. None of them dared to slack off. However, Chu Daoju, Ling Feng, and Long San all stayed behind. All they know is to go into closed-door training. No one wants to chat or drink with this old man. Yu Taiyan took a stroll in the Divine Palace, muttering and sighing. It's been 80 years and that brat Xiaofu still hasn't returned from Qian Su Jinghua heaven. Among all of them, he was the most leisurely one. His cultivation was built on endless treasures. He didn't need to cultivate at all and didn't expect to break through to the meditative realm. Yen Sankong, that brat, I want to see how many years you'll need to break through. Yu Yuqian snorted and muttered in dissatisfaction. There was even a hint of jealousy in his voice. When he had no one to talk to, his greatest pleasure was to catch some of the children in the Divine Kingdom and give them a few pointers. However, many people knew that Yu Yu's former disciple was really too fucking bad. Thus, many people hid their younger generations away from this old man. This made Yu Yuqian even more depressed. He raised his head to look at the sky all day long. He was indescribably bleak, like a 10,000-year-old pine tree that had weathered wind, frost, rain, and snow. It'll be over soon. Once the 100-year period is up, I'll be able to enjoy it for a while. Yu Yuqian counted the days with his fingers and looked forward to it happily. The person he missed the most was Du Xiaofu. With that brat's troublesome attitude, there would definitely be a great show to watch. If that brat couldn't handle it himself, he could step in and stand up for him. At the same time, he could show off his power. Yu Yuqian liked this kind of thing very much. There are still 20 years to the 100-year period. Just thinking about it makes me feel uncomfortable. Suddenly, the originally excited Yu Yuqian put on a bitter face and sighed. Chapter 2804. In the Tsanghuan Grotto of the Yamada no Orochi clan, Du Xiaofu was still in seclusion. Enveloped by a huge talisman array, the void octagon diagram spun rapidly, releasing an earth-shattering aura. However, under the isolation of the array, none of this spread to the outside world. Even the ordinary elites of the Yamada no Orochi clan couldn't sense it. 70 years. It only took 70 years for Master to reach such a level. Gold, wood, water, fire, earth, thunder, and other laws have all reached the limit. They're already complete. Only the wind element and a few other laws of matter are still lacking, but they're also close to perfection. Master is really, really abnormal. Unbelievable. In just a few decades, he actually reached this step. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Master's attainments in the laws of matter are already at the peak of the late stage of truth severing. He's about to reach perfection. If he goes one step further, he can directly reach the immortal realm and try to integrate the laws of matter. The void octagon technique is really terrifying. To be able to have such a terrifying advancement, the Wheel of 8 Trigrams must have contributed greatly. Outside the cave, more than a dozen immortal elites of the Yamada no Orochi clan stood in the air. They all looked at the Wheel of 8 Trigrams in the sky in shock. Everyone's words had an unbelievable evaluation of Du Xiaofu. They were all immortal realm masters. As members of the Yamato Orochi clan, they were born with the innate talent of racial affinity derived from the 8 material laws. Moreover, when these dozen or so people were in the true severing realm, they had also gradually comprehended the other laws and stepped into the immortal realm. In these few decades, under the Wheel of 8 Trigrams in the sky, every time there was a huge fluctuation, it would cause these people to be shocked. And every time there was a fluctuation, there would be one or more laws of matter rising, becoming more terrifying and vast. These immortal elites of the Yamada no Orochi clan knew that it was because Du Xiaofu had comprehended the laws of matter. Today, under the Wheel of 8 Trigrams in the sky, all the laws of matter were close to being real. It was not like in the beginning, when only the laws of thunder, fire, and water were the most powerful, and the other laws were illusory. The laws of matter reinforce and counteract each other. Using this principle, even if Master doesn't come to the Yamada no Orochi clan, it's only a matter of time before he enters the immortal realm. Everything will come naturally when he understands the mysteries of it. Snake One's eyes shone with divine light, as bright as the sun in the sky. He murmured, he felt a deep throbbing from the bottom of his heart. The void 8 Trigrams in the sky was extraordinary. Was in the realm. Was heaven and earth Dharma and Logos. The Creator must have been a master. Had Dharma, heaven and earth Dharma and Logos, Dharma and Logos of heaven, heaven and earth heaven and earth, heaven and earth Dharma and heaven Tao and heaven and earth's heaven. What did this was this? To touch the heaven Tao, one must have integrated at least one primitive law and become a meditative body. Even in the whole 33 heavens, compared to the huge number of creatures, it was a pitifully small existence. Moreover, it only appeared once in tens of thousands of years. The void 8 Trigrams in the sky is still rotating, and the power of law is still fluctuating. If this continues, Master will be able to break through to the immortal realm with the complete laws of matter in less than 10 years. Beside the snake, an old man opened his mouth and said in a daze. When the others beside him heard this, they all nodded. It was not difficult for them to see that Du Xiaofu's laws of matter were approaching perfection. As long as he continued to comprehend, he would soon reach the perfection of the reality-severing realm. At that time, he would have the ability to break through to the immortal realm. Breaking through to the immortal realm after cultivating for a few decades in the reality-severing realm was unbelievable. At this moment, the immortal realm masters of the Yamada no Orochi clan were all amazed by Du Xiaofu's talent. They were all looking forward to the day Du Xiaofu came out of seclusion. All of the immortal powerhouses stayed behind. They wanted to witness this unprecedented magnificent feat of the 33 heavens. Time passed slowly. The immortal realm masters stood like weathered stones. On each of their 8 heads, their eyes were motionless as they looked at the void 8 Trigrams, sensing the powerful energy released from it. However, they had only waited for a year in this state when the 8 Trigrams in the sky suddenly buzzed and trembled violently. Then they saw that the mountains, rivers, heavenly lightning, earthly fire, and other scenes all disappeared in an instant. What's going on? Why did it suddenly stop? Clearly, the laws of earth have not reached perfection. It was fine before and there were no accidents. Did something happen to Master? It shouldn't be. Looking at the state before, it was clearly going to happen naturally. The dozen or so Yamada no Orochi clan masters were shocked and woke up from their stupor. They were very surprised and extremely puzzled by this scene, because all of this had happened too suddenly, and it was not what they had imagined at all. In their imagination, Du Xiaofu could directly reach perfection of the laws of matter with the help of the void 8 Trigrams. After he came out of seclusion, he only needed to stabilize his realm a little, and then he would be able to advance to the immortal realm. But at the last moment, that magnificent aura suddenly vanished like smoke in thin air, disappearing without a trace. This made all the masters turn pale with fright. They were afraid that Du Xiaofu had encountered some accident during his cultivation. However, just as they were worried, the seal outside the heavenly cave flickered and shone brightly. Then, they saw a purple-robed figure walk out and come to the side of the crowd. "Master!" Snake One and the others cried out softly and hurriedly went up to greet him. "Master, did something happen? Why did it suddenly stop at the last moment?" The snake's 16 eyes were all looking at Du Xiaofu, containing an indescribable feeling of puzzlement. "It's nothing, I just stopped myself." Du Xiaofu smiled faintly and said. He had endless emotions in his heart, praising the Void 8 trigrams for being a superpower created by the master of the 3,000 sectors. Not only did it have ferocious attacking means, but it could also be used to comprehend various laws. Although Du Xiaofu had only comprehended the laws of matter this time, he knew that the 3 primitive laws of time, space, and soul could be directly integrated into the Void 8 trigrams and become one. However, with his current cultivation level, he was still unable to do this. He stopped himself. Snake One and the others were stunned, feeling a little confused. They did not quite understand Du Xiaofu's idea. He could have reached perfection directly, but why did he stop himself? Cutting the truth means cutting the cage and reconstructing the true self. If you want to break through from this realm to the higher immortal realm, you have to cut off the redundant principles and use a complete original principle to transcend. That way, you can have an immortal body and live forever. You can go through the ages without dying. Du Xiaofu sighed lightly and said with emotion, "If I cultivate the law of matter to perfection and then break through to the immortal realm, then I will not be able to cultivate any deeper in other laws." Elder Kong had once told him about the difference between the 2 realms of cutting the truth and immortal realm. Cutting the truth was to constantly explore the true meaning of the laws of time, space, matter, and soul. Of these 4 primitive laws, one had to choose at least one of them as the direction to comprehend with all his might. Only by completely comprehending the myriad of true meanings derived from a certain primitive law could one step into the immortal realm. The so-called immortal realm was to merge the true meanings of these laws one by one to achieve a truly complete primitive law and obtain an immortal body. The cutting cage of cutting the true realm referred to the laws other than the primitive law that one cultivated with all his might. For example, if Du Xiaofu cultivated the law of matter with all his might, then the 3 great laws of time, space, and soul would have to become a cage that had to be cut off. Once one stepped into the immortal realm and started to merge with the law of matter, then one would no longer have the chance to cultivate these primitive laws. The methods that one grasped at the earliest could only be used as methods and would no longer be able to use them to touch the supreme laws of heaven and earth. Just like Elder Kong, he had grasped the complete law of space and was gradually completing the merge. At the same time, Elder Kong's attainments in the law of fire were extraordinary, but he could no longer continue to comprehend the complete law of matter. Such an outcome was not what Du Xiaofu wanted. He wanted to walk a path that few people had walked, a path that no one had walked since ancient times. After Snake One and the others heard what Du Xiaofu said, all of them opened their eyes wide and were shocked once again. Although Du Xiaofu did not say it clearly, how could they not understand the meaning behind it? His master wanted to cultivate 2 or more primordial laws to perfection before attempting to break through to the immortal realm. This thought made their hearts tremble for no reason. This was absolutely not something that ordinary people could imagine. It was not that no one had tried, but this path was too difficult, and very few people could succeed. In the entire 33 heavens, those who could master 2 complete laws and reach the immortal realm could definitely be counted on one's fingers. The law of matter has reached the peak of the late stage of the true Slayer realm and is only one step away from perfection. The law of space is at the late stage of the true Slayer realm, and the law of time and soul are both at the early stage of the true Slayer realm. Overall, my strength should be able to contend with a true Slayer realm expert directly. If I use some other methods, I might be able to exchange blows with someone who has just entered the immortal realm. Du Xiaofu calculated in his heart and estimated his own strength. In terms of true cultivation and strength, it should not be difficult for him to fight against a normal true Slayer realm expert. If he used some other methods, such as the blue spirit armor, the purple lightning profound cauldron, and so on, he might even have a chance to contend with someone who has just entered the immortal realm. Only the time law and the soul law were not comprehended by him. Compared to the space law and the material law, they were still too far apart. In terms of realm, they were 2 whole levels apart. I've been in the Qiansu Jinghua heaven for more than 80 years. I'm afraid the divine demon battlefield is about to open. After calculating the time, Du Xiaofu thought that the divine demon battlefield was about to open, so he waved at Snake One and the others, "I'm leaving." After he finished speaking, he turned around and flew out of Tsonghuan Grotto. Those people of the Yamada no Orochi clan had been planted with the blood soul seal by him, so they would definitely not betray him. So it was fine to let them know about his matters. Before leaving the Yuqing Divine Kingdom, Yu Yuqian had told Du Xiaofu to return before 100 years and lead the younger generation of the Yuqing Divine Kingdom to participate in the divine demon battlefield. Counting the days, it was not too far away from the 100-year deadline. It was time to go back. Now that his cultivation had broken through again, Du Xiaofu did not need to stay in this world any longer. What he needed to do next was to stabilize his realm and make further progress in the time law and the soul law. In addition, Du Xiaofu had been worried about one thing, and that was the whereabouts of Du Xiaoyao and little Xingxing. It had been almost 90 years since they were chased by the elders of the school of vertical and horizontal, but there was still no news of them. Yu Taiyin had also sent people out to investigate, but there was still no result. This made Du Xiaofu very worried. Let's go back. After leaving the Tsonghuan Grotto of the Yamada no Orochi clan, Du Xiaofu flew all the way to the wormhole. This time, without the blood sword, he could not directly return to the supreme Changrong heaven. He could only go through the wormhole. When he passed by the Chimera Lion clan, Du Xiaofu also went to take a look. After finding that there was nothing wrong with this clan, he continued on his way. Along the way, he also deliberately paid attention to the many living beings in this world. However, everything was very peaceful, just like in the past. Back then, more than 200 of them had caused a huge commotion in this world, but it was completely calmed down and no one dared to mention it again. The primordial demonic dragon clan, the green blood giant clan, and the divine netherworld clan. Du Xiaofu muttered the names of the 3 strongest clans in the Qiansu Jinghua heaven. He was puzzled. Back then, when he was besieged, in the end, the 3 clans intervened to encircle and annihilate him. However, they actually named him and wanted to kill him. This made Du Xiaofu very puzzled. However, although he did not know the specific details, Du Xiaofu could guess that there must be something fishy about it. Those 3 clans definitely would not shoot without aiming. Du Xiaofu was not in a hurry. There would be a day when something fishy would surface and be revealed to the world. He hurried all the way to the wormhole. Just as Du Xiaofu was leisurely rushing, an old man walked out of the wormhole. This old man's eyes emitted a cold green light. 2 sharp rays of light shot out from his pupils like sharp blades, carrying a deep sense of acuity. Waves of invisible law waves spread out, affecting the surrounding space. If someone was glanced at by him, they would feel as if they were being stared at by a terrifying giant wolf, making them feel chills in their heart for no reason. The primordial demonic dragon clan, the green blood giant clan, and the divine netherworld clan, what are these 3 strongest clans in the Qiansu Jinghua heaven preparing? After the old man walked out of the wormhole, he tore the void apart and went in a certain direction. He was thinking about something in his mind. He faintly felt that this world was about to undergo a great change. This was because in the past few decades, although the 3 major races hadn't made any big moves, they had been secretly spreading their forces, as if they wanted to integrate all the forces in this world into a single rope. This kind of situation could only mean one thing. Something big was bound to happen in the future. These 3 clans were secretly preparing. But what the truth was, Ordinary people simply had no way of knowing. And this time, this old man appeared from the wormhole to take a trip to the outside world to do some trivial things for the three clans. I'm afraid the Qiansu Jinghua heaven won't be peaceful for too long. The old man sighed softly and sighed with emotion. The movements of the three clans would probably become bigger and bigger. When the time came, it would definitely affect all the creatures in this world. If the disturbance was severe enough, the other worlds in the 33 heavens might also be involved. Thinking of this, the old man unexpectedly felt somewhat melancholy. The creatures in the Qiansu Jinghua heaven had lived in peace for countless years. Almost no experts from the outside world came to disturb them. Only a small number of juniors would occasionally come here to gain experience. If something big were to happen in the future, this kind of peaceful life would probably be gone forever. The old man shook his head and stopped thinking about it. He was only at the immortal initial stage. These things were not up to him to decide. Those real experts of the three clans would naturally be plotting behind the scenes. He calmed down the thoughts in his mind and continued to walk towards his clan. The speed of an immortal expert could be said to be extremely fast. In less than half a day, he had already traversed countless tens of thousands of li. This old man came from the heaven-swallowing demonic wolf clan. He was not far from the spatial wormhole. In a day or two, he would arrive there. However, at a certain moment, the old man's eyes suddenly turned cold. His pair of dark green eyes emitted an awe-inspiring green light. He let out a soft cry of surprise. Somewhat strangely, he cast his gaze to the void on the other side. The old man perceived that there was a strange aura fluctuating in the distance. A passage was torn open in the void. Someone was walking through it. The peak of the late stage of the true severing stage? A human? The old man said softly. He instantly saw through the strength and origin of that person who was walking forward at high speed. Normally, a true severing stage person was not enough to be taken seriously by him. However, that person just happened to be a human. This made him pay some extra attention to him. As he carefully investigated, he was even more astonished. It's actually that Du Xiaofu. Why did he come to the Qiansu Jinghua heaven again? The old man was somewhat stunned. He was deeply surprised by the identity of that human. In the past, when the 200+ humans were encircled and annihilated, he also took part in it. It could be said that he was very familiar with Du Xiaofu. Moreover, in the end, the power behind them came to this world with a terrifying long blade. When the grand beginning demonic dragon clan's meditative realm's demonic dragon ancestor came into being, they successfully saved everyone. This was even more memorable. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.